Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs. I'm so excited to speak with you here today. Going to let you know that typically speaking, we start around 12. People typically trickle in for the next few minutes. So we're going to give people about 3 to 5 minutes to join. And that way, everybody gets to start from the beginning and people miss less. But while we're here, how are you today? If you guys on Zoom want to let me know, we're also simulcastically streaming to YouTube at the same time. So if you guys want to let us know in the comment section, you know exactly what's going on, we'd love to hear from you. Welcome, Tyrone. It's great to hear from you. If there's anybody on Zoom, can you all hear me well? If somebody could let me know, at least in the comment section, if you can see me and hear me. We're using from Felipe. I am on mute. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much. Can you all hear me now? For the folks on Zoom.
Yeah, audio is good now.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. So what I was trying to say is welcome, everyone. I'm super excited to have you all here today. In our experience, we typically launch around noon and typically around 5 or 6 minutes after the hour. So we're going to actually just wait about 3 more minutes so that everybody gets the chance to begin from the beginning. But how is everyone today? Are you all doing well? Welcome, Omina on YouTube. Welcome, Cloud Yearner on YouTube. Venkat, welcome. Felipe, welcome. Jason Trumpter, welcome. And Dur, I see you on Zoom. Welcome.
Thank you.
We'll begin in about 2 minutes, but you're all doing well today?
Yes.
Fantastic. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is how do you get your first job as an architect? Something that I've been working with people on for decades now. Typically network architects, but network architects, cloud architects, enterprise architects, we're all 99% the same thing. It's just a matter of our focus. So we'll talk a lot more about how to be great at this in about 2 minutes. For the people that are actually on YouTube, welcome, Virtual Circuit. Wow, I remember the PVCs, the permanent virtual circuits that we used to work with Frame Relay a long time ago. Boy, that stuff was fun. That was the first cloud I worked on, for those of you guys on YouTube. That was back in 1998. It was the Frame Relay cloud. Around 2000, it was the ATM cloud. After that, it was the VPLS cloud, and then it was the RFC 2547 cloud, and all this cloud computing stuff. It's just stuff we've been doing forever. It's just the world's learning about it as opposed to things that we've done for many, many times. Welcome, Nelson. So, you know what? We're starting to get some people on these calls. Let's begin. So, today we're going to talk about getting your first cloud architect job. And it's a great, great, great field. So, whenever you hear someone present, you really need to know, who are they? What are their background? Are they credible? And I'll give you my background and you can make that determination on your own. I've been working in tech now for over 25 years, and I've loved every last minute of it. I had the opportunity to work for some of the world's best organizations. I was really lucky. I worked for Cisco Systems for almost a decade. I worked at Riverstone Networks, which was the old Cabletron. What a company that was. It was a tech innovator at the time. Welcome, Remy. I worked at Comcast, which is one of the largest cable providers in the world. I was a principal 2 architect there, responsible for designing their backbone. I was the lead architect at MCI WorldCom many years ago on our team, and we were the team that built non-standard solutions for people that were doing things that had never been done before. So I've been an architect for over 25 years now. When I first became an architect, they used to call us design engineers, and then they called us architects. Now the term architect is a little more amorphous, but we'll talk about exactly this job and how to be great at it. Now, over the last 25 years, I've been considered an expert on global network design, cloud computing, and information security. And I've been coaching or mentoring others for 2 decades in order to get promoted in tech or find their first tech job. And it's one of my favorite things to do in the world. I love teaching people how to get hired for the following reasons. They call me and they say, guess what? My life has been changed. I went from poverty to prosperity, or I went from a good job to a great job, and I'm super happy. And this is why I love doing this. And that's why I've been coaching or mentoring for 20 years. Now, what we're going to talk about today in this order is as follows. We're going to talk about how and why we created the how to get your first tech job method and why it works. And we're going to talk about leveraging your current skills, because I promise you there is no such thing as no experience, and that's a critical part of our system, and we'll talk about why. Then we'll talk about how do you become the hiring manager's dream hire. We'll then get into what kind of what should be on your resume, what is a resume, and how to build a resume that sells. Then we'll talk about how to get your resume in the hands of the hiring manager instead of being blocked by HR. That's super, super, super important. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do an hour of group coaching. People on YouTube can ask me any question they want. People on Zoom can ask me any question they want. You guys can go back and forth between platforms if you want. And if people on YouTube, for example, want to actually be heard, they can pop into the Zoom meeting when the time is right, and vice versa. So we're just thrilled to have you here. So let's talk about how and why we created this concept of the Get Your First Tech Job method. And I'm going to say this. We created this Get Your First Tech Job method for one reason. It was for me. See, here's how I started my career. I was practicing internal medicine. I was in something in the US called the nurse practitioner. Outside the US, the nurse practitioner role is very different. But in the US, we write prescriptions, do minor surgeries, have our own offices. And I was practicing internal medicine as a nurse practitioner. And guess what? I really kind of loved it. I was really good at it. I loved it. I liked, taking people that were actually sick and making them healthy. It was an experience that I can't even begin to describe. So I loved it. Now, guess what happened though? I loved tech more. In fact, I wasn't even the first person to see it. I wasn't even smart enough to recognize it. It was my wife. See, what had been going on is I loved tech so much that I was spending about $30,000 a year on computers, routers, and switches back in 1999 just to play with it. I had all these servers inside of my house, all these routers, firewalls, and I was tinkering. And my wife says, Mike, if you're going to spend $30,000 a year, and this was back in 1998, 1999, which was really like $60,000 or $70,000 in today's world, on just tech to just play, she said, you should turn this into your career. She said, it's all you love. And then I remembered that Mark Twain quote, make your vacation, your vocation, meaning make your job your vacation, and you'll never work a day in your life. And guess what? I never worked a day in my life because of it. Shifting from medicine to tech is why I did it, but it was not easy. I had to create a system to get my first job. You think people tell you just get certified, you're going to get hired. Well, I'm here as living proof to tell you that is not enough. Here's what happened when I joined my career. I wanted to move into tech, so of course I called the school, the local computer school that was in their interest to teach me certifications. So I bought this 5-day, $5,000 Microsoft Certified Systems Engineering Boot Camp. I was there for 5 days. There were 4 tests to pass that exam to become Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, and I did it. And guess what? There was no opportunity for me. And then I had heard, if you want to do networking, get a Cisco Certified Network Associate or Professional, and you'll have anything. So I bought this 10-day, $11,000 boot camp, and this is back in 1999. So that was like $20,000, even $25,000 in today's week. I went to that boot camp. It was 10 days and $11,000, and let me tell you, it was brutal. It was like 7 in the morning to 7:30, 8 o'clock at night for 10 days straight. And at the end of the 10 days, I passed all 4 of those exams to pay a Cisco Certified Network Professional. The troubleshooting which we had in those days, the routing one, the switching one, the designing one. It was a great experience. Loved it, loved it, loved it. There was another one too. So now I'm CCNP certified. And I said, you know what? It's only 2 more tests to become a design engineer or an architect. The Cisco Certified Design Associate, the Cisco Certified Design Professional. So I locked myself in a room for a couple of weeks. I passed these. So now I had 3 professional certifications, not associate certifications, 3 professional certifications. The Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, the Cisco Certified Network Professional, and the Cisco Certified Design Professional. And I applied for jobs. And guess what happened? Rejected, 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 rejected. And I was like, whoa. Now, here's the good news. It was 25 years ago. And in those days, people would actually call you and tell you why you were rejected in some of the cases. And 2 of these people called me back and they said, Michael Gibbs, you've got a really interesting resume. He said, you're practicing medicine. You've got all these professional certs, but they said you have no degrees in tech and no experience in tech. How can I hire you for a tech job? Now, I had only applied for a certain number of positions because I wanted to test it. I'm not just going to send 1 million resumes and see what happens. I sent 5 and I got 5 rejections. Okay, done. I knew that it's insane, and the very definition of insanity is to keep doing the same things again, again, and again and expecting a different outcome. That's just crazy. So guess what? I didn't do that. I knew I had to change my tactics. So I took a step back. At night, I went to the gym. The gym's my happy place. Spent most of my life as a martial artist, did powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, yoga, martial arts. So these are kind of the things my whole life. The gym was my happy place. So I go to the gym to lift some heavy objects and kind of relax. Figure we're all different how we relax. And I ran into a friend of mine, this big bodybuilder that was working in tech. And I was like, okay, Brian, tell me, what do I do? I said, I keep applying for jobs and I keep getting rejected, being told no degrees in tech, no experience in tech. And the person says to me, Mike, why are you applying for jobs? And I said, what? Are you kidding? What do you mean, why am I applying for jobs? I want to get hired. And he said, you're applying for jobs. You're never going to get hired that way. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, Mike, he said, you've got no degrees in tech, no experience whatsoever. He said, but you are good and strong. I know you. He said this. He said, you got to get yourself in front of the hiring manager. If you can get there, I know you can get hired. So, and he told me to use a recruiter for this. He said, don't call an HR recruiter, find an executive recruiter. The kind that gets paid $20,000 to $50,000 to find somebody a job. They will find you a job because they get paid to do it. And I said, Brian, thank you. So what did I do the next day? I called a recruiter. Now, I'm a scientist. I come from practicing medicine, so I'm a scientist. I look at data and analytics. I'm not the best data analytics and statistician, but I always look for patterns, however they may be. So I called a recruiter, but I didn't want to call someone in Philadelphia where I was living. I come from a Greek family that's very close together, and basically speaking, we translate for each other and do things that we needed. So I knew there was no chance I was moving. And I knew that if I wasn't moving, call the people as far as possibly away from you. So I called a recruiter in California. I got to tell you, 25 years ago, early days in tech, the recruiter in San Jose I spoke to gave me a 45-minute reason about what the industry is, what's needed in the industry, what the hiring managers are looking for, and the things that I didn't have and the things that I did have. I was so thankful for this guy and his information that I sent him a beautiful gift and thanked him for his time. And I started to build my list. What hiring managers want. And I was thinking, if I can be what a hiring manager wants, I'm going to get hired. I was right. So I asked this recruiter, and I wonder if what this recruiter told me is actually true and accurate. So here's what I did. I called 49 more recruiters. I called 50 recruiters, and 48 out of the 50 all said the same thing. It was amazing. So what did I do? I did a gap analysis. In medicine, if the patient's got a problem, you figure out the treatment plan. In architecture, guess what? If a customer has a problem, you figure out the tech that'll treat them. It's the same treatment plan. Nothing's changed. It's just different things that you're doing. So after speaking to 50 of these people, all telling me almost the same thing, they told me, this is what hiring managers desire. And they said, here's where you're at. And I said, if this is what they desire and here's where I'm at, I need to build a plan to go from where I'm at to what employers desire. So what I did is I did a gap analysis. I listed everything that the recruiters told me that those employers wanted compared to the skill set that I had at the time. And then I built a plan and I got there. Now I went on my first interview, and this is true, and it's important. I go on my first interview armed with the knowledge that I heard from 50 recruiters. And I was interviewed by this great guy. His name was Devendra. It was an MSAT welcome. I remember it like it was yesterday. Devendra asked me a behavioral question and I answered it. He asked me a tech question and I answered it. Devendra asked me a technical tech question and I answered it. And then Devendra asked me a technical question and I didn't even know what he mentioned. And I went, okay, this great interview is over. But I'm a martial artist and a yogi. And in martial arts, we say, if you can control your breath, you can control your mind. So I took a deep breath. I exhaled and I said, Devendra, I need to be completely honest with you. I've not had the opportunity to work on this technology related to the question you're answering me. I said, but I'm highly energetic. I'm highly motivated. I learn fast. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. And I know how to find the answers to things quickly. And if it was important and I was part of your team, I would learn this overnight. But I need to be honest. This is not my skill set right now. I know this, and I know this. Now with this, after telling Devendra, the hiring manager, that I didn't have a skill, I was expected to him politely escorting me out of the room and say, thank you for your time. You just don't have the experience. But that's not what happened. When I said to him, I'm sorry I've not had the opportunity to learn that yet, and I told him what I knew and didn't, and he saw honesty and integrity in me. He shook out his hand, Mike, and he said, Mike, you're hired. And I was so blown away with that great experience with Devendra. I'd been now studying for about 2 months on my own, 3 months on my own, plus the boot camps I took. So, I had about 3 months of actual tech training, plus the hobbies that I've been doing for the year. And now I'm hired, at least I think, as a network engineer. And now Devendra says something else, and he says, Mike, everything about you is great. This is the best interview I've ever done. I trust you. I know what you know. You know what you know. You're going to be a safe employee. But I have a problem with the title of network engineer and the salary you requested. And I thought, okay, well, he figured it out that, I've not worked in tech before because I told him maybe he's going to offer me a lower position or lower my salary. And you know what? I can afford to take a job beneath me and work my way out. That's what I was expecting. And Devendra does something else. He says, you didn't ask for enough, and you're not a network engineer. You're a senior network engineer, and I need to make you a senior network engineer. And I looked at him, and he said, Mike, here's the thing. He said, you're so good right now. Without experience, you're one of the best people I've ever interviewed in my life. And he said, you have no experience. He said, if I hired you as a network engineer within 3 months, you're going to be bored. He hired me as a senior network engineer, and 6 months later, I was in the design team, the lead architect designing the systems for our customers. All within 6 months, he took a chance on me because he heard the competency, the honor, integrity, and trust. So when you want to get hired, don't worry. You can get these jobs that seem unattainable. They're not unattainable, but you got to be great at the skills needed to do it. We're going to talk a lot more about that. Now, I want to tell you this. The first and probably one of the most important tenets of our system is that there is no such thing as no experience. People are all concerned about experience. There's no such thing as no experience. This is so critical. Everything you have done in your life has an impact. I remember when I learned internal medicine, I was in the school to be a nurse practitioner. And I remember people in the class would say, hey, that cardiology that was on the last exam, is that going to be here on this exam? And the professor looked at me and she's like, and then she looked back and answered, and she says, well, are your patients not going to have a heart after you pass the month? She said, life is cumulative. Knowledge is cumulative. I can't not be cumulative. I need you to save lives. No, that made a huge dent in my mind, and I've never forgot about it. You've got to be on. You've got to save lives. Whether you want to be a cloud architect, a doctor, a nurse practitioner, a network architect, a cloud network architect, a cloud security architect, you must be great at what you do. So I'm going to show you 2 things in my background. 2 things that make me better at being an architect. 2 things that have built my entire career. And guess what? None of them are tech, and this built my entire career. So I'm going to show you how to leverage your life experience. Now, I'm going to use me as an example. Now, if you guys want to come off mute in the hour we've got reserved for coaching, I'll do this for any one of you. I will show you how your experience on this call is valid for the job. I don't have a lot of time, but I can do it on this call, and that's why we do a lot of these things live. So let's talk about something that I did as a child and for most of my life until I shattered my foot, as well as my first job, totally outside of technology, and it'll show you how it made me an architect. The first thing that I had going for me is I am an extremely experienced martial artist. What do I mean by that? I started martial arts as a child, and I practiced martial arts until I had a life-changing injury when the time I was around 34 years old, but I couldn't walk for a couple of years. So long time to practice martial arts. One thing I learned in martial arts is to be calm at all times. You may think of martial artists as violent people. No. You have to understand a successful martial artist is calm. Now, here's what happens. We're competing, we're moving around. People are trying to strike us. And if you're calm, you can just move slightly, even a quarter of an inch out of the way and not get hit because you're calm. Now, here's what goes on when you're calm. The prefrontal cortex part of your brain, the thinking, the logical reasoning, the happy part of your brain, this is working when you're calm. You know what happens when you're not calm? This prefrontal cortex shuts down. The amygdala kicks in and nasty things happen. See, if you're calm, we're here, we're relaxed, we're talking, life's good. I get frustrated, my prefrontal cortex shuts down, my amygdala kicks in, and I become stupid. I mean, literally stupid. If you've ever had an argument with someone and you said these horrible things and you don't even know how you said it, which everybody's done in their life, that's the amygdala. That's what happens when you are not calm. The thinking part of your brain shuts down. So in martial arts, I learned how to be calm at all times. Guess what? Become at all times. It'll do wonders for your career. Now, what else did I learn in martial arts? To have a laser-like focus on what's going on with you. We're sparring. If you're not focused on what's going on, you get hit, you get knocked out, and it does not feel good, I promise you. Do you know what happens in your tech career? If you're not focused on what's going on, you make mistakes, it causes an outage, and trust me, it's not fun. It's even worse than being hit in the head. It's terrible. Learn something else in martial arts. Don't get angry. I don't ever get angry. Things happen, mistakes occur. I remediate the problem. I deal with it. I don't get angry. Why would I want to be angry? When I'm angry, my prefrontal cortex shuts down, my amygdala kicks in, and I'm stupid again. And if I'm angry, I'm going to damage a relationship, potentially speaking, with someone I truly care about. Over what? So if something's not right, speak to someone calmly, gently, and say, hey, could you help me with this? That's all you got to do. In most cases, that's enough. And if you can't get away with that and you're a leader and you have to get rid of someone, you have to get rid of someone or move them to another job where they'll be more successful. But there's no reason to be mean. Now, the last thing that I learned as a martial artist is, and this is very applicable to your careers, is to know yourself and to know your adversaries. So growing up in a warrior culture, you have to plan for battle. Your career is battle. Life is battle. That's what it is. It's battle. So take the words from Sun Tzu's, or pronounced spelled TSU, The Art of War. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will always be victorious. Learn this from martial arts. Know my strengths, weaknesses, and capabilities. Know my opponent's strengths, weaknesses, and capabilities. I can build a plan and win. Now, same thing. Know you. Know your competition. Be better than the competition. You'll win. Or know what the hiring manager needs. Become what the hiring manager needs. You'll get hired every time. So if you want to win, know yourself, know your enemy. Now, like they said in The Art of War, if you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you will always lose. So if you know yourself and know your enemy, you always win. But if you don't know yourself and don't know your enemy, you always lose. So know yourself and learn your competition and learn what hiring managers do. And that's why we're going to talk about it. But guess what? Know yourself, but not your enemy. For every win, there'll be one loss. Know your enemy and not yourself. For every win, there'll be one loss. So win, win, win. Know yourself, know your enemy. I learned this from martial arts. I learned it from The Art of War, which I read when I was in martial arts. In my MBA program, they forced us to read The Art of War. They used to do it because business is battle. Your career is battle. So win, fight hard, and win. Being a martial artist helped me fight through obstacles in my career. Now, you know where I really learned architecture? By practicing medicine. That's it. You heard me say it. I learned architecture by practicing medicine. I went straight from medicine to architecture within 6 months. Why? In medicine, I learned a couple really critical tenets. The first thing I learned is in life and in medicine, knowing a little bit about a lot of all the things, being a jack of all trades and a master of none, is a horrible way to build a career. Horrible. In medicine, who are the jack of all trades? They're the family practitioners. They do a little bit of everything. Really good people, really smart people, really caring people. Do you know who gets paid the least in medicine? The family practitioners are the general medicine people. Why? Because they do a little bit of everything. Compare that to a specialist. Someone, for example, that's a neurosurgeon. That person might get paid 10 times more than the family practitioner. And they went to the school for the same period of time. And trust me, it is no easier being that generalist and knowing a lot about a lot of things, or something about a lot of things, than it is to know a little about one thing. It's much easier to be great at one thing than it is to know a little about a lot of things. So you're compensated more, your career options are better. So I learned to be a specialist. Guess what? The concept of the 10x AWS certified person is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You want a career, don't do this. It will haunt you. Why? If you have 10 certifications all in 10 different careers, you're not going to be good at any of them. I'm from a networking world. Here's how much experience I had on BGP before I actually knew it. I had 10,000 hours of knowledge and practice and experience on BGP before I actually even began to know it. And you know what? In medicine, I learned this. People go to school for a long period of time to do something very, very small. So you want to be a great architect? Get deep knowledge, everyone. Deep knowledge. So let's talk about what I mean by that. You take a doctor. They go to undergraduate school for 4 years to learn a little bit about tech. After they learn a lot about the tech, guess what they do next? They go to medical school for 4 years. When they're done that, they do an internship per year, a couple of year residency, and then if they want to specialize, they do a fellowship. It can take 17 years for some physicians to get into practice. 17 years. And you'd think they'd be covering the whole body, but no. The heart is the size of my human fist. That's it. This is the size of the human heart. And there are more than 10 kinds of cardiologists that work on the heart. 17 years times 10 doctors just to do something the size of the heart. That's 170 years of training just to get to the heart. And guess what? These physicians will spend the next 30 or 40 years becoming great at just that and nothing else. You want to be a great architect? Be great at one thing. Cloud networking, cloud security, designing systems for banks. It doesn't matter, but be great at a narrow focus and you will win. So 10x AWS certification, recipe for bad careers and low salary. Expert level certifications, expert level knowledge, recipe for high salaries and lots of career mobility. Now, when we talk about my first job, practicing internal medicine, that's when I learned architecture. This is how I became an architect. And you might think this sounds crazy, but I want you to know half of the careers out there are the same job as an architect. You just need to think differently and make it clear to the hiring manager that your experience in your last architect job, not called an architect job, is the same thing as you need in your regular, new, future architect job. Cloud architect, network architect, but we're talking about cloud architects here today. So what do I mean by that? When you practice medicine, here's what happens. A patient walks in the office and says, "Hi, Mike, my throat hurts." And I say, "Joe, sorry your throat is hurting. What makes your throat better? What makes your throat worse?" And he says, "It's better if I drink tea. It's bad if I talk." Okay, so I know that. Then what do I do next? I use a tongue depressor, I look in this person's throat and I say, "Oh, it's red." And then I think in my head, I said, "What causes a red sore throat?" And I think, ding, 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 beta hemolytic strep group B. And then I say, okay, based upon my knowledge of the bacteria, I'm going to prescribe a medication called amoxicillin, give 500 milligrams 4 times a day, and my patient's throat will be better, and we're all happy. Okay, so now let's evaluate the job of the actual architect. Architect actually goes and meets with that client. And after the architect meets with the client, they ask the client, what are your business goals? What are your business challenges? What improves your business? What makes it worse? Getting a theme, it's the same questions the doctor asked. Then you're going to go assess or baseline the current systems. You're going to have your team basically figure out, how many virtual machines, how many subnets, where your remote access users are coming, what your network looks like. You're going to evaluate. And then you're going to assess, and then you're going to build in a plan called an architecture. So let's get them side by side. Doctor, meet with a patient. Architect, meet with a client. Doctor, ask the patient questions. Architect, ask the client questions. Doctor, evaluate the patient. Architect, evaluate the systems that exist in the business. Doctor, make a diagnosis. Architect, make a hypothesis. Doctor, prescribe a medication. Architect, could design an architecture. Same job, literally not even different by 2%. The only thing that's different is the things that you need to know. So if you're a management consultant, you're already working as an architect. Often people that are working in customer service, that deal with customer problems and have to craft creative solutions to solve customer problems, a lot of the times, guess what? They are doing architecture work. It's just another frame of things. So there's no such thing as no experience. Use your experience, get it on your resume, position it in terms that can show the future employer that you are skilled and capable, and you will do great. There is no such thing as no experience. I learned this from healthcare, and in healthcare, that's actually how I learned how to do this. So now that you know what we talked about, how did I get my first tech job going from healthcare to this? I asked questions to a ton of recruiters. Now, since I asked those 50 recruiters and they told me what was needed and I looked about where my path, what it was missing, I did a gap analysis, mastered those things, went on my first tech job, my first interview, and got hired. Now, I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about interviews and what hiring managers want. I've interviewed with 5 companies and I've been hired by all 5. I've never interviewed someone where I didn't get a job offer. So that's pretty important. You got to get the right interview skills. Be the product that the company wants and they will hire you. So figure out where you're at now, figure out where your goals are, and find a way to basically build a plan to get you to your goals. So now, I want you to think about things from the hiring manager's perspective. The hiring manager is going to hire someone that they want. So my wife has a thing with shoes. It's almost an addiction. She's got like 300 pairs of shoes, and she loves shoes. I probably have the same thing with tech going on in my house, so I'm no better. But my wife loves shoes. She loves them and loves them. And one day I said to her, "Why do you buy shoes?" And she says, "If I like them." And I went, "Interesting." And this is going back, prior to me coaching people for the last 20 years on how to get their first jobs. And I started asking hiring managers. And some of them I asked, I said, "How do you hire people?" And they said, "Do they have the skills and do I like them?" And that kind of set off some bells in me about 20 years ago. So what have I done for the last 20 some years? I have asked every hiring manager, literally speaking, every hiring manager in the world, what do you want? Everyone I actually ran into, I asked what they actually want. And because of this, realistically speaking, I became what they want. Become what they want, become what the hiring manager wants, and you will get purchased every single time. Be what someone desires, and you will be there. So there's questions that are coming in on Zoom, questions that are coming in on YouTube, and we will answer every question as soon as the presentation is done. And the presentation will be done in about 45 minutes. Then we'll talk about what we do. Then we'll answer questions for an hour. So that's when we're going to go over these questions. And I will happily answer anything else. So let's go to what does a hiring manager want? So if you know what the hiring manager wants, then you'll be hired. So first and foremost, hiring managers want someone that can do the job. Can't do the job, it's kind of hard to hire you. Why are we hiring someone as hiring managers? We got work that needs to be done. So if you can't do the work, we can't hire you. So that means competency. Competency is very different than experience. Experience says how long you've done things. Competency says, can you do them right or not? You can give me somebody with 30 years of experience that's totally incompetent, and you can give me a 14-year-old hacker that can do things faster than somebody with 30 years experience. We hiring managers want someone that is competent. Experience is good. Competency is great. So you don't have to be experienced to get good jobs. You have to be competent, and so competent that when you get your interview, you prove to them beyond any reasonable doubt that you are the person, and you'll get hired every time. It's what I did, and it's what all of my students have done for the last few decades. Now, once we get past that technical piece, which is 50% of what we want as hiring managers, the next 50% is this other stuff. And this other stuff is the key to getting hired. See, as hiring managers, we average out your score. We come up with a thing. And if 50% is technical competency and 15% is the intangibles, if we can get you to 35 or 40 out of technical competency, which is the best anybody can do when you don't have experience, and get you to a 50 out of 50 on communication skills, emotional intelligence, presence, attitude, and all those other things we'll talk about, you'll get hired every time. Because when you're so desirable, it's hard not to hire you, and you get paid more when you're desirable. So first and foremost, as we talked about, the employers want someone that can do the job, but that's not enough. The next thing employers desire is someone that they can trust, meaning, can they trust you? So let's look at what happens on interviews. I ask someone a question. Tell me how to prioritize traffic going on one link versus another link via BGP. Pretty common interview question, especially when you're dealing with multiple links. If someone starts to bluff, they lie to me, the interview's over. You know what? This is 99% of all interviews end in a lie. What happens is this. We ask a question to obviously something we know the answer to. The interview person attempts to bluff to us, which is a lie. We get sick to our stomachs because we've been lied to. We're incredibly polite because we don't want to leave a bad taste in someone's mouth, and that person gets thrown into the trash pile. And also, not only are they thrown into the trash pile, do you know what you do? You put a note that says, never interview again because this person lied to me. So, don't lie. I'm telling you, just don't lie. It'll damage things long term. Be authentic. If someone asks you a question you don't know the answer to, simply say this. I've not had the opportunity to work with that technology yet, but I'm highly motivated, highly energetic, highly enthusiastic. I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to things quickly. And if you want to gauge my competency, you can ask me about this and this and this because I have a lot of expertise there. But I just want to be purely honest with you. This is just something I don't know. You know how many people I've hired like that? You know how many people get hired because the people finally like somebody and trust you? I got to tell you, in my first interview, they're like, you're the first person that was honest with me in a long time, and I needed that. So Be likable, be likable, be likable. So part of that is being trustworthy. So what do employers want? First, technical competency, and two, are you trustworthy? Now, along with that trust is the level of safety is something your hiring managers care about. That means, do you know what you know, and do you know what you don't know? Remember when we talked about in the art of war, and they said, know yourself, know your enemy, and always be victorious? Know yourself, and also know your tech. So what happens is this, and this is why employers are so concerned about safety. You've got someone, for example, they don't know their limitations. So what happens? They do things beyond what they can do. They break things. They destroy a business. They destroy a customer. It is a disaster. So we want people that know their limitations. So we want people that can do the job, someone that can be trusted, and that's someone that can be competent and safe. These are critical skills for the cloud architect, network architect, or any technical career forever. So now you know those. Now, what else do employers want? Energetic, enthusiastic, passionate people. But it makes sense. Do you want this guy? Wake me up when it's time to do something. Or do you want someone that comes into work? Hey, everyone, how are you today? Let's get started. I'm so excited. Guess what? Cisco has a new routing feature. That's what I want on my team. If you're passionate about it, you're going to learn it. You love it. You're going to be great at it. What else do organizations look for? They look for people called energizers. Energizers are people that raise the energy in the room. Guess what energizers are? Highly emotionally intelligent people. You walk in there, they make everybody feel good. That is an energizer. That is a skill. Organizations look for team players. Now, for somehow, I have no crazy idea why, but someone convinced the cloud architect community that they're going to be doing programming and they're going to be doing scripting and they're going to be doing sysops and DevOps and every other career other than architecture. No, architects design. And we'll talk much more about the job, but this, you're going to be on a team. And then it's going to be a team that's going to be built a certain way. You're going to see some cloud infrastructure architects, people like me that have spent their career in infrastructure, but also cloud. You're going to find some generic cloud architects that are some generalists. You're going to have some cloud security architects that are security experts that also know the cloud. You'll have some cloud IAM people that, and yes, I separated IAM from security because they're separate things. And you're going to have a cloud IAM architect. And guess what else you have? You might have a cloud big data architect, and you might even have a cloud database architect on your team. Then you may have a half a dozen engineers on your team that are going to do proof of concept, meaning building them. You may have some DevOps people to do some software release cycles and automation and build some containers and things for you in an automated way. You might even have some maintenance people of tech, the sysops people on your team to kind of help maintain the proof of concept. So you're going to have a big team because you can't know everything, but you got to be able to work in teams. So one last thing that hiring managers want. They want someone that's willing to go above and beyond, meaning do what's necessary. So your brand, your profile should show that you will not quit until the job is done. That's what employers want. I want every one of you to get hired, every one of you. So here's what you need to know. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. Hiring managers hire this, meaning buy. This is what their desires are. They want someone that can do the job, someone that can be trusted, someone that's competent and safe, someone that's energetic, enthusiastic, someone that brings out the best in others, meaning emotionally intelligent, someone's a team player, and then someone that's willing to go and beyond. You do this and you will get hired every time. Now, the next thing we really need to do is actually define what is a cloud architect. Now, I never thought I would ever be involved in doing something which feels so crazy, but it's super, super important. The reason I have to do this is we've got lots of people out there that have huge misconceptions of what is a cloud architect. And it's such a misconception, realistically speaking. I mean, it's keeping people from getting hired. So, because of this, it's super, super important to know. So for the people on Zoom, I actually placed a link to CIO Magazine, and my associate Chris will paste that link for the people on YouTube. Here is actually what happened. Architects like us know what architects do, but we've been seeing these crazy job descriptions for cloud architects, so much so they're not even related to architecture, nothing at all. So what happened is Gartner, an organization that investigates technology, and they've been doing technology job positions for decades, they're always a market leader, started asking the chief information officers in all these organizations, said, what do you want in a cloud architect? They had to, because there's the sysops stuff there, there's this DevOps stuff there, there's programming there, and architects don't code. This is crazy. Just these job descriptions. So here's what happened. Gartner polled chief information officers, a lot of them. And they said, you're the people that are responsible for how the technology is going to be used in your business, whether you go to the cloud or move off the cloud. What do you want in a cloud architect? And the CIOs told them, and I'm going to read you the actual results. Here is what happens. At the top of an organization, you've got the chief information officer. The CEO sets the strategy for the business. How do we go from point A to point B? How do we run the company? Directly beneath this chief information the chief executive officer, you got a chief information officer. The chief information officer makes sure there's the technology in place to execute the CEO strategy. So the CIO is basically the CEO of the tech for the company. Underneath them, they've got a VP of IT. Underneath them, they've got a hiring manager. So, realistically speaking, be what the hiring manager wants, and you're going to get hired. What does the hiring manager want? They want what the chief information officer wants because they have the budget to pay all the employees. So, when chief information officer published, what do you want in your cloud architect employees? Here's what they said. They said they want someone to lead the cultural change for cloud adoption, develop and coordinate a cloud architecture. That means design. Develop a cloud strategy and coordinate the adoption process. That means more design. And what else did they say? They want you to help find talent with necessary skills. That's leadership. Creating a cloud record team, leadership skills. Establishing best practices for the use of the cloud, half tech, half leadership skills. Overseeing governance and mitigating risk, all leadership. Selecting cloud providers and picking third-party services, half tech, half leadership. Manage budgets and estimate costs, leadership. Operate at scale, half tech, here leadership. So this is what organizations want. Note, I need you to understand this and hear this very clearly. You heard nothing about coding because architects don't code. You heard nothing about configuring, no management console, no CLI, none of it, no API stuff. You heard no scripting there because architects don't script either. You didn't hear implementation. You heard design and lead. That's what we architects do. And that's the massive problem when people want to become architects. They're training to build instead of training to design. They're training to configure instead of training to lead. And you've got this skill set that is so different from each other. And the more time architects try and learn all these non-architect skills, the less their resumes look relevant, the less they have time to actually learn the architect skills, and they can't be hired. So that's why it's super important to actually know the job. I'm going to break it down even further for you so you can learn all these different cloud careers, especially since there are people that are out there that are saying, if you want this career, learn all these other careers, which is dangerous, dangerous, dangerous information. So let's talk about the main cloud careers. You have the cloud architect, which is an end-to-end system designer, a designer, meaning I'm going to meet with a client. I'm going to ask them their business, legal, technical requirements, their strategy, their goals. I'm going to evaluate their systems, and I'm going to make a design. I'm not an architect. I design them. Network architect, cloud architect, same thing. We are systems designers. Now, after we architects design it, we hand it to a cloud engineer to go build it. So we're not going to build it. We design it. Now, that cloud engineer is a builder. And that cloud engineer will have to know how to configure things. And they'll have to know how to script. And they're going to have to know how to code. They're going to have to know all the hands-on things because that's a hands-on position. We architects are system designers. Cloud engineers are builders. Now, after the cloud engineers build it, they get turned over to maintenance people to maintain it. Those maintenance people are called sysops. Sysops people are maintenance people in tech. And guess what? There's this other awesome engineering career called DevOps, related to automating software releases, but faster, more agile methodologies. These are great things, but again, that's not architecture. And DevOps people have to be programmers first, where architects need to know the systems and how they work together. Super different careers. Train for the career you want, and you will be great. So how do you become great? How do you become a cloud architect? How do you get the competency in all the areas it needs to be? Design, leadership, business acumen, emotional intelligence, executive presence. How do you get it? I'm going to tell you right now. If you're with us and you're one of our students, we have an extremely cost-effective program where I teach you how to be an architect from the technical piece and all of this all put into one. And it's an organized, logical approach. Do video 1, do video 2, come to classes each week. The live classes, we do our thing. We'll tell you about more later, but that's an approach. Train with us, and we'll cover all of this in at least a 500-hour training program if you've never been working in tech before. And if you've been working in tech for about 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, we can typically do it in about 250 hours of training. Note, certified solution architect professional training is about 10 hours. So we've got something else that we've got to put in those extra 250 hours or 500 hours based upon your experience. But that's how we do it. But if you're not with us, and you don't have to be with us, I just want you to get hired as a cloud architect. Here's what you need to do. Again, with our students, it's all packaged, and we remove the complexities because we know their job, because we've had it for decades. But if you're not doing with us, the first thing you need to do is learn the network. The cloud's just a virtual network in the data center. So if you're not with us, do the following. Go to Cisco Systems. They've got beautiful documentation. Learn about OSPF, learn about BGP, eBGP, IBGP, BGP traffic engineering, learn about route reflectors, learn about IBGP, and manipulating all the paths using BGP. Obviously, you need to learn IP networking and subnetting and route summarizations. It's super critical route summarizations when you deal with the cloud. I need you to learn NAT, the use cases of NAT, and it's not just to connect to the internet. NAT is everywhere in the enterprise network. I need you to understand VLANs. I need you to understand .1 queue tagging and trunking. I need you to understand Q and Q tagging. I need you to understand Ethernet over MPLS. I need you to understand this. I need you to learn IPsec very well. I need you to understand, the way private lines or direct connections or express connect kind of connections work. I need you to understand how VPN technologies work. I need you to know the difference between a private network and a public network. I need you to understand QoS. I need you to understand authentication, authorization, and accounting on the networking, DHCP, DNS. I need you to know this in depth. And you can get this information from Cisco. If you're with us, it's obviously in videos that we managed. If you're on your own, you'll get that in about 3,000 to 5,000 pages, and you need it. But it's free, but you can get it. You're gonna have to read those 3,000 to 5,000 pages to get the networking piece. Now, the network is only part of it. A cloud is a virtualized network and a virtualized data center. If you're with us, it's included in an easy way. That's how we can get it down to 250 hours of training. Now, let's say this. Next, if you're not with us, first you've got to learn about servers. Now, here's the good news. You can learn a lot about servers from IBM and Dell and HP Enterprise. Lots of good free information there. Probably can learn that in about 50 to 100 pages. Server stuff is easy. Now, server virtualization you're going to need to know. And by getting really good at VMware, ESXi, and KVM, and QEMU, you can get that in about 1,000 pages, no big deal. If you're not with us, you can get that all free. Learn about that. Now, why do you need that? Because virtual machines are what you're using for compute on the cloud, or you're using containers. Next, what you need to learn? You need to learn containers. So, guess what? If you're with us, we talk about it. If you are not, read the Docker documentation, read the Kubernetes documentation. Again, it might be 500 or 1,000 pages, but it'll get you great. So, next, learn about load balancers. Go to F5's page. It might take you 1,000 pages to learn about load balancers, but they are the experts on load balancers and DNS, so get it directly from them. You do this, and you'll become a master. Guess what? Firewalls. You need to know firewalls. So go to Palo Alto, go to Cisco, go to Checkpoint, go to Juniper, Fortinet. Read about firewalls, next generation firewalls, how they work, and do the same thing for IDS, IPS systems. Again, if you're with us, we talk about it, but if you're not, you can still learn these things, but realize you're going to be thousands of pages for each thing. And you need to have that much knowledge on how the systems work together. And of course, you're going to have to do the same kind of thing for every other technology, the Linux technologies, the Apache server, and pretty much everything you're going to work with, you need to learn. So you don't need to have how to build these things. You just need to know how they work. As an architect, you're designing systems, how they work. You can't design an end-to-end solution if you don't understand all the parts along the way. So that is super important. So for that, that's where I recommend you get your technical training. And I see there's questions coming in on YouTube, and I promise you we'll answer every one of your questions, plus any questions coming in on Zoom. As soon as we finish the presentation in about 30 minutes, well, spend at least an hour answering any questions you have. And if you've got more questions, we'll stay on longer. We want you to all have a great cloud architect experience here. So now we talked about the business thing, the technology things that you need to learn. Now, equally important and much more expensive to learn, but critically important, of course, that's cheap in our program, are the soft skills. You must be an expert presenter. As an architect, 50% of your time is going to be documenting and presenting. Minimum. So much of your time is going to be presenting, and you must be great at it. You must be able to influence a customer to spend $1 billion in your technology solution. You need to be great at it. This is super important. So lots of presentation skills that you need to do. If you're with us, it's included. Jerry Weissman has some great training materials out there. Speakeasy in San Francisco has some great training materials. They've got a 3-day course that basically is a great intro to professional level presentations. We love their work. We do something ourselves, a little more than the 3-day, but that's a great starting point. If you don't want to train with us, they are excellent. Same thing for emotional intelligence. We train emotional intelligence heavily, but you need to learn it from someone else. It's most critical to your success. Statistically speaking, the people that have the highest levels of emotional intelligence get hired most often and paid more. In fact, people that with average salaries, not even cloud architect salaries, where the delta is bigger and the spread is bigger, people with an average job earn $29.6 thousand more per year on average when they're trained to be more emotionally intelligent. 30-year career, that's $1 million. That's huge impact to someone's life. So get your emotional intelligence training, get your presentation skills training. Now you've got to learn business acumen and ROI modeling and things. You can get that from an MBA program. You can get that from somebody's 9-month business analytics class, or we teach it as part of a program. We're really good at teaching engineers and other technology professionals how to do ROI modeling. I've been doing it for decades, and that's why it's something I'm super comfortable with. So we talked about presentation. Now you're going to have to learn executive level writing, which is basically the exact opposite as you learn in your MBA program. In your MBA program, they say, I need a 30-page document on this. In executive writing, it's like, how do I take that 30-page document and make it 2 pages or less? Big difference. Executive level writing are critical skills. And now you know how to get the technical skills, and now you need to have the business skills. So let's talk about certifications to be hireable, and then we'll talk about the experience component. Certifications to be hireable should be focused. They should make you look like the expert that you are in, or the expert that you want to be. I want you to think about it this way. If you know cloud architects design, and cloud engineers build, and cloud sysops people and the maintenance people of tech, and DevOps people are a totally different career. If you train to be an architect and have a bunch of sysops and DevOps and engineering certifications, when you apply for an architect job, the hiring manager is going to be like, you're no architect, you're an engineer. Because you're trained to be an engineer. So don't do that. If you want a doctor, let's say you've got chronic headaches. You go to a neurologist because they specialize in headaches. You don't go to the podiatrist or the foot doctor unless you have foot pain or foot problems, or you're diabetic, or there's a reason to do it. Go become what you want and become great at exactly the skill thing you do. So what are we talking about with regards to certifications, and what do certifications do? Let's talk about what they do and they don't. Certifications don't have anything to do with your hireability except your ability to get an interview. Ding, ding, ding. That affects your hireability. Nobody hires you because you're certified. Nobody cares if you're certified beyond that unless they're like a value-added reseller and they need to keep a certain number of certified people on there. But what people do care about is your ability to do the job. So what can certifications do? They can make your resume look so good with the right ones and the right focus that you get brought in for an interview. When you get brought in for that interview, it is up to you to get hired. Win that interview when you get hired. That's why we talked about things the hiring manager wants, so you can present those things on your interview. You can show them that they can't survive without you, that they need you, and then you're going to get hired every time. So what should it look like? What is a good certification portfolio? Well, minimum of 1 professional level certification. In today's world, I wouldn't even apply for a job with anything less than, say, a Google Professional Cloud Architect or an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. I wouldn't even try, unless you've got 20 years of experience. And if you have 20 years of experience, say maybe in networking or data centers, you can get hired without any certifications, because let's face it, the cloud is nothing more than a virtual network in a data center. But if that's not the case, you need a professional one. So we advise our students to do the following: AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, and straight to the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. Our students do that while they're in our training program, every last one of them, because we got to get them hired. Note, I didn't mention the AWS Cloud Practitioner. Skip that test. Skip it. Go straight to the associate and then the professional. And you know what? If you've worked in data centers and networking like me, and you want to go straight to the professional, that's okay. But only do that if you've got a lot of knowledge on storage and compute and all these other things. Skip the practitioner. Here's why. Every day, the average cloud architect working earns about $600 a day. A good cloud architect or a seasoned architect can earn more than $600 a day, $1,200 a day, $1,500 a day. So every day you're not working as a cloud architect is costing you a fortune. So if it takes you 2 months to pass the cloud practitioner exam, which is almost the same as the solution architect associate exam, that's $24,000 of wasted money, the time you spent waking on learning that intro to intro to intro. Guess what? The certified solution architect associate is intro level certification. So start straight there. Saved you 2 months, that's $24,000 of money gained for you. Didn't cost anything, it's free advice. Do the associate, do the professional. Don't do a SysOps associate, don't do a DevOps associate, don't do anything in another career. It makes you look less focused. A jack of all trades and a master of none gets paid less. Be focused. Now, pick an area that you love and you want to be good at. Maybe it's cloud networking. Let's say it is. Maybe do a Cisco certified network professional. Marry that with the certified solution architect professional. And now you're an industry expert in networking and cloud. You're hireable. And heck, if you want to do like one of the AWS exams as well, like the advanced networking, fine, that's good too. It shows you know how to do networking things on the cloud, but don't think you're going to get there with an AWS advanced networking and a certified solution architect professional. It's not enough. The industry certifications are big. You know, the AWS advanced networking, you can fit into 200 pages. The Cisco certified network professional, you can fit into about 4,000 pages. So big difference. So get the big ones. Say you wanted to be a cloud security architect. We're still talking about a certified solution architect professional as your baseline entry level certification. Marry that. I mean to work, not necessarily entry level, but entry level to work. Marry that with a CISSP or a CEH or a CCSP, and now you're a cloud security architect. You've got the portfolio. Now build that knowledge and you'll get interviewed for these things. And if you interview them, you'll get the job. Now, you really do need to have some kind of experience. You really do. And you can get the experience on your own, but you need to be able to tell people you've done something. So I'll tell you what we do with our students. And if you're our students, you do this completely included on our servers. If you're not one of our students, that's okay. You can buy a server, and I'll tell you what kind of server, and you can do it on your own. If you're one of our students, it's included. If you are not one of your students, buy yourselves a Xeon server that's at least 3 years old, so it's not super expensive, and no more than 7 years old, so it still has enough power. And the Xeon server that I need you to get is 16 cores with 128 gigs of DRAM, and either 3 SSD drives in RAID 0 or an NVMe drive, because I need you to have high ops and high throughput, because you're going to be building lots of virtual machines on the same hardware. When I recommended this a long time ago, it was about $500 for this, and somebody could buy these servers. In today's global supply chain shortage, it's about $1,500 for a server, but this will give you experience that you can't imagine. If you're one of our students, again, it's included. If you're in a country like the US or the UK where it's easy to buy and sell things, you can buy one of these systems on eBay for $1,500, use them for about 6 months, and then probably sell it for $1,100 back on eBay. It doesn't have to cost you that much. But if that's not the situation, if there's import taxes or there's things going on, you can use ours, it's included, or just buy one and keep it yourself. Because as a cloud architect, you're going to be using servers for test labs constantly. Now, what kind of labs do I want you to do? I want the world to know you're a cloud architect. What the cloud architects do, they take things from the network and the data center and move them to the cloud. So if you don't know the network and the data center, you can't do anything in the cloud because you don't even know what you're moving. It would be like a chef and saying, cook something. I'm not going to show you what the ingredients are. I'm not even going to tell you what they are. Just go cook it. Imagine it up in your head. And that's why people can't do this. What is the certification training? The name of the service and how to configure it. What does an architect do? Design stuff. Now, architects, doctor, the same job. What if you gave a doctor 5 pills and said, this one's yellow, the yellow one's 200 milligrams, the green one's 300 milligrams, the orange one's 400 milligrams, and the red one's 500 milligrams. And you just told the doctor the pill color and the number of milligrams, but you didn't tell them what the pill was for, and you didn't tell the doctor how to diagnose someone, and you didn't tell the doctor how to ask questions. You just told them 4 pills or 5 pills and dosages. That's what we're talking about with the AWS certification training, the name of the service and how to configure it. So learn what this stuff actually is. How does it work? And then you can design it. So these are the labs that we use. On the server that our students use with us, because they VPN in and use ours, or if you're on your own and you're studying and you buy a server, do the following. First, set up server virtualization. Use VMware ESXi, everybody's using it. You could use KVM as well, but use VMware ESXi. And then, heck, do it with KVM too. Now you know virtualization. Now after that, I need you to set up containers. So build some Docker containers or build a Kubernetes cluster or whatever you want. It's a chance to practice on these network and data center technologies. After that, guess what? Build the LAMP stack, the Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP stack from scratch. In the cloud, you click a few buttons. Here, you got to do it all. You got to do the work. You got to learn stuff along the way. So put that there. Set up NFS servers or Linux file sharing. Set up SAMBAS servers. Use Linux to share the Windows files. Learn all this stuff that exists in the data center because you're going to be dealing with this every day. Build the firewall. Build the VPN concentrator. Build the things that are going to basically go from the network data center to the cloud because that's you're going to be moving stuff and you have to know how it works. Set up Microsoft Active Directory. Do it to learn IAM. You'll be great at it by the time you're done. You know what else you should do? Build your own cloud. I'm not joking. My students build a cloud. See, this is experience. And if you're my students, you put it down under a Go Cloud Architect section. If you're not with us, put down research and development. Put it somewhere. List, set up server virtualization. Built and deployed Docker containers. Set up Microsoft Active Directory for domain authentication. Built an OpenStack Ansible cloud. Built a Nutanix cloud. Federated OpenStack Ansible cloud with Microsoft Active Directory. Show that you know what the network and data center is. Show that you're doing all the things that are really the experience that matters. Then you'll be ready for the job. So while somebody else, I said know yourself and know your enemy. While your enemy is out there trying to learn cloud computing by setting up an S3 bucket, you can say, I built a cloud. Which hiring manager do you think is going to hire? The person who's going to build a cloud or someone who can set up an S3 bucket? Heck, do learn how to set up an S3 bucket. Do learn how to configure these things. I recommend you all learn it. Just know as an architect, you're not going to be building it. You're going to be designing it. I recommend you doing the lab so you can say you've got experience and you can learn the idiosyncrasies of each vendor's platform. But as an architect, you're going to design. You are not a configurer. So make yourself the perfect candidate. Build depth of knowledge in your area of expertise. Get your certifications focused. Get excellent at writing, excellent at speaking. Develop your emotional intelligence. Develop your RO modeling skills. Focus on your end-to-end design and your presentation and your writing skills. Then you're a great architect. If you've got all those skills, you'll be hired and you'll be paid a lot more. Get as much training as you can from the industry. Constantly read what's coming out new from the technical innovators like Cisco and Juniper and Palo Alto. Fortinet, great companies, and they're always producing things. Make sure what they're doing. Find out because there's always something coming and that way you'll be ahead. Get at free conferences. Every vendor has them. Get at industry conferences when it's appropriate. Right now, you may be the remote. At some point, maybe the future. But go get out there, very physically, virtually. Get out there and learn. Now, the next part is a resume. Let's talk about how do you improve your resume to get hired. So, you want to be a cloud architect. You got to have a cloud architect resume. So, for one thing, cloud architects do not have a one-page resume. So, if you've got a one-page resume, you're going to have to make it a little bigger and beefier, and you're going to have to put more on there, flesh it out. But you got to get your resume read. This is the most important. Your resume must be read. What is a resume? To the cloud architect, a resume is an advertisement of the cloud architect services. Something that says, hire me to be your cloud architect. That's what a resume does. Hire me, please. It's an advertisement about you. Now, if nobody likes your ad or reads your ad, what good is an ad? It's worthless. So make your resume read. That's what I want you to do. Make your resume more interesting to be read. How do you do this? In the first line of your resume, put something that's super important to make it readable. You know what I have on mine? I have Mike Gibbs, MS, MBA, CCIE, Google Professional Architect, maybe an AWS cert. I start with the big degrees, then I go to the CCIE because it's the most valuable, and I work my way down. But it's top line. It's something that shows credible. Now, the next thing, for example, that I would say to you, after you bring credibility, is you got to entice the reader to use it. Now, I see a lot of resumes, and they have something called an objective on them. I don't understand this. An objective tells the employer what you want out of the relationship. I go back to my wife who buys shoes every day because she loves them. And I say, dear, when you buy shoes, do you ask the shoes what they care about, if they want to come home with you? She says, no, I buy them because I like them. She said, why would I ask something or someone what they want? And I'm the one buying. And I said, you're right. See, my wife has 170 IQ. In fact, she learned Spanish, the whole language, in 10 days because her translators couldn't understand her thoughts. So she typically has good ideas, so I always ask. So it's a little scary sometimes too, but it's a strong asset to have in the house. So employers buy what they want. If you put an objective on your resume, you're telling the employer, this is what I want out of the relationship, which the employer is going to think is selfish, and basically your resume is tossed out. Instead, show the employer what you can do for them. It's an ad about why they should hire you. So show them what you can do for them. Top line, big bold letters, something that says, read me, make yourself be known. Replace that silly objective with an executive summary that shows what you can do for them. I'm just making stuff up as I go along, so it's going to be different every time. Experienced technology professional with 25 years of architecture, network architecture, cloud architecture, security architecture, and enterprise architecture. Leading big teams, experience closing billion-dollar-plus deals, experience bringing out the best in others, etc., etc., etc. That might be something I'd say for me. Make the person want to read it. So then make sure you've got your things for your jobs. Make sure they highlight things that you've done. Try and relate those things from your job to your previous thing. For example, if you're a management consultant, where you're meeting with clients and you're asking them things and you're advising them after an assessment, and the architect does the same job, show how those things can be correlated. If you give them presentations, put them on there. If you've given lots of big public speaking things, put them on there. If you've written publications, put them on there. Make yourself look great. And the experience piece. If you're one of our students, they put Go Cloud Architects down. And they've got a place where they've got experience. If you're not one of our students, make sure you have a research and development section on your resume. And in that research and development section, what I need you to do is follows. I need you to put out all those things that you've done, worked with VMware ESXi, or set up server virtualization with EXI, design and deploy Docker containers, design and configure a Kubernetes cluster. Everything in there that employers will want, put it in there. Generally speaking, there's keyword scanners, and while we advise generally using recruiters as opposed to going through HR when getting your job, which we'll talk about next, these things matter. So you want these things to work, put it in at least a research and development section. If you're with us, it sounds obviously better being under a brand than a university or a school. But even if you're on your own, put a research and development section and get this here. And now you've got experience. And now, because other people, when they list, they set up an EC2 instance, you can say, I built a cloud. Big difference. Now, the next part of our system is to bypass HR. And every time I say one of these things on YouTube or I put it on YouTube, I feel so bad. Look, I love HR people. HR people are great technology professionals. They're very good at determining what a company should pay their people, the benefits. They know all about it. They're great at finding people that could fit into an organization's culture. Excellent at it. But you know what they're not? Technology professionals. And because they're not technology professionals, you know what HR has absolutely no idea how to do? Gauge your technical level of expertise. Now, you got to take a world and be empathetic and look at things from other people's perspectives. HR people are bombarded all day long. A medium performance company like a cable company may need to actually go through 3,000 applicants just to hire a single person. And a high performance company may see 5,000 applications for a single position. 5,000 applications. So this is what the HR world's contending with. You got to understand the problem from their end. So if HR has no way to gauge your technology experience because they're not technology professionals, and they get 5,000 emails for a single position, what do? They have to make themselves get less emails for these positions. So they put up roadblocks. They want someone with 20 years experience doing this and this and this and this, and they pick the whole spectrum of the technology universe. And the reason they're doing that is they're trying to filter out the bad ones from the good ones. Here's the problem. When you've got someone with 1 million years experience in a lot of different things, generally speaking, they're a jack of all trades and they don't know enough about anything to do the job well. So what happens is you get the person from HR, you interview this person, and they know a little about a lot of stuff. And you're a really good person, you really like them, but they don't know enough about anything to be effective. So you can't hire them. And as hiring managers, we're busy. We don't have time to interview people. We interview them because we're desperate. And if we bring someone in for an interview, it's because we think we might be able to hire them. So if I bring someone for an interview and they can't do the job on the interview, I have two choices. I can say, sorry, you're terrible. Or I could say, sorry, you don't have enough experience. So if you're competent and brought in for an interview, no one cares about your level of experience. As long as you're competent, you will still be hired. But now remember, HR people are not tech people, so they can't gauge your technical things. So they have to put up roadblocks to weed out what they think are weak. Now, once we interview these people that pass the roadblocks and we can't hire them, we get frustrated. And we hiring managers don't have the time to interview 50, 60, 70, 80 people for a job. Why are we hiring somebody in the first place? We are so busy, we've got to do something about it. So that's why we're hiring people. So now that you know why we're hiring people, and you know why we can't deal with jack of all trades, you know what we hiring managers do instead. If the recruits from the tech side we get from HR aren't that great, we call a tech recruiter. Why do we call the tech recruiter? We can call the tech recruiter and tell them what they want. I've got a guy, Steve, in New York. I've worked with him for decades now. He's gotten a lot of my people hired, and for those reasons, I love working with him. But let's talk more about it. I call Steve and I say, Steve, I need a cloud architect. I need one with very good, strong network experience. And I say, great. And I say, I need an emotionally intelligent one. I need someone that's got a good attitude, someone that's enthusiastic. That's what I'm looking for. And Steve says, Mike, I'll call you back. Let me go check my list. Steve then calls me back and says, guess what? I've got this guy named Felipe. You're going to love him. Highly capable, highly emotionally intelligent, great attitude. I think you should interview him. Okay, so now I've called Steve, a loyal, trusted advisor that's helped me find 5 jobs in my career and helped all of my students find jobs. And I say, I need this person. And he says, talk to Felipe. Guess what? I'm excited to talk to Felipe. I'm already happy. And when he comes here, I'm already biased to like him because I heard from my recruiter. So HR sends it up and it's like, okay, another jack of all trades. A recruiter sends a person and it's like, okay, there's a chance this person is going to be good. I'm excited now. So when you go through HR, guess what happens? You get to skip the HR blockade. And when you don't have a lot of experience, HR can stop you. They're going to put your things in. It's going to go through a keyword scanner. You're not going to have enough and your application gets pushed aside. But when you go through a recruiter, they can put you directly in front of the hiring manager. And if you're in front of the hiring manager, you can win. You can plead your case and show them why you're great. So that's the secret we use. We use recruiters. At this point, we have over 200 recruiters we use for our students because it matters so much. And we add 30 to 50 more per week because it's super important. But recruiters are a big part of the system to getting hired because you can skip HR. So if you can go straight to the recruiter and the recruiter can tell you the hiring manager likes this because they know their hiring manager and prep you, and then you can get interviewed and you've got the right skills, meaning the technical competency, emotional intelligence, soft skills, business acumen, and the interview, you're hired. So that is the secret to getting hired. It's going out there, getting the right skills and building the right brand, getting the right certifications to get you the interview, and then capitalizing on that interview. Get that interview and crush it because you know what to say, how to say it. You're trained in explaining technology. You're trained in business acumen. You're emotionally intelligent. You have the best attitude and you're technically competent and you're getting hired and you're going to get paid a lot more. So what did we talk about today? We talked about, what is the perfect cloud architect employee? Then we talked about how to become the perfect candidate. We talked about how to get technically competent, how to get the critical cloud architect skills, what your certification portfolio should look like. We talked about what your resume should look like, how to bypass HR, and how to get hired. These are the things that we talked about. So let me do this. Give me 5 minutes to talk about the type of training we do, and then I will answer everybody's question. Could be questions on our training or any question about your tech career, your cloud architect career in general, or anything I can do to help you get there. I will answer it for at least 1 hour. So let me do the following. Let's talk about what we do with Go Cloud Architects. At Go Cloud Architects, we build cloud architects. I've been an architect for almost 30 years now, and I know architecture. I've asked hundreds of hiring managers over the years what do you desire, and I've got 2 decades of experience helping people get their first tech job. And here's how we train our architects. On Mondays and Fridays, we do live training for about 3 hours. Of course, we record it in case someone can't attend the session, but we do live training. And on these training sessions, we do architectures. For example, the students will come in, they will ask me, who's going to be acting as the CEO of business, business, legal, technical, and regulatory requirements. Then the students will ask the technical team things they need to do. Then the students will design a cloud architecture in real time on two clouds, minimum of 2 clouds, how to meet this organization's needs on the AWS cloud always and some other cloud always. And we rotate with what that other cloud is, because a cloud architect should be able to design an end-to-end system on any cloud, anywhere, anytime. Build hybrid public clouds, private clouds, or in between. Now, in between these classes, which we do architecture and soft skills training, students watch videos. And we've got about 200 videos to watch. And these videos are about your communication skills, building your career plan, helping you with certain technical things, emotional intelligence training, executive presence, interview skills. It's all in there. We do so much training in there. Build your resume. We do training on that. And the students do the training. They turn in the homework assignments throughout the week. So that's one of the ways, for example, that these things actually occur. So live training twice per week, and in between training sessions are do things. And then, of course, we've got a lab section. And our lab section is the envy of the world. And our whole training program, guess what? Costs less than you buying the server itself to even do the labs. So in our lab section, we get you guys really new and really experienced with the things employers care about. You'll work with server virtualization. You'll build containers from scratch. You'll build Linux machines, Apache servers, MySQL, PHP. You're going to do it the hard way from scratch, not the easy way where you click 3 buttons, the hard way, and you're going to learn how it all works at the same time. You're going to build file serving and file servers on Windows and Linux. You're going to build firewalls, VPN concentrators to learn how this stuff works. You're going to set up Active Directory, and you will build the cloud, all of it on our servers. So there's no cost to doing any of these things. All you need is an internet access. And these are the things that go into our training program. Our training program is for people with no tech experience, about 500 hours and 6 to 8 months worth of work. And that's, working hard. If you have tech experience, specifically in the area of networking or data centers or any of these other kind of things, it's about 16 weeks to take you from where you're at to actually becoming a cloud architect. It's not that hard with focused training, but that's still at least 250 hours of training. So when we take people with no tech background, we're dealing with about 500 hours of training minimum. And we're dealing with people that have a tech background, a good tech background, about 250 hours. We don't care. It's the same price either way. We just want to get people hired in the end. So we let people walk through our systems. We help build the clearer development plans so that you have the path to get to success. And that's kind of what we do. Chris from my team has posted a link to the program. Chris from my team has also going to post a coupon code, or he already has, even better. Chris from my team can post our organization's phone number, both on the video and inside of the chat boxes. Chris can do that. And at this point, I think there's questions that have been asked. Actually, I see a list of questions, and I'm going to start asking them. And then after I answer these questions, people that are on Zoom, for example, that want to ask a question live are more than question. And people, for example, that are on YouTube want to shift over to Zoom, you can do that. Chris from my team will pop that area as well. So you guys can go back and forth, do whatever you need to ask any questions you need. The first question is from Praveen K. What is the path for a cloud security architect / engineer? Now, Praveen K, I've got to say this. They are very, very, very different career paths. Cloud security architect and cloud security engineer. So let me talk about the architect side first. To be a cloud architect, you need to have a good understanding of all the systems in the network in the data center and the cloud. So to be any of these architects, you're going to need to know that. Now, to be an architect, it's more about how the pieces work together. To be an engineer, it's more about the depth of knowledge on each individual component. So architect, big picture, engineers, depth of knowledge, and that's why the training is different. So for the cloud security architect, something that would be like good is, teach them end-to-end system design, networking, and data center. Then learn emotional intelligence, executive presence, executive writing, ROI modeling, super important for the architect. Then learn how to write security policies. Then add a really good architecture-like security certification like the CISSP. And that is a great role for a cloud security architect. Now, if you want to be a cloud security engineer, it's less about the end-to-end system design, but you still need to know the end-to-end systems along the way. But it's much more related to how do you build stuff? How do you build the cloud as opposed to how you design the cloud? So you got to be an expert builder of the cloud to be a cloud security engineer. Then after that, you've got to be a good security engineer. You got to be able to be the guy or the girl that does the firewalls, the IDS, IPS systems, the access control lists, etc., etc., etc. So that's what you need to be a security engineer. Now, certifications for security engineers that are good are like the offensive security professional or the certified ethical hacker, plus the practical things we actually have to hack. These are the kind of things that actually break into things. And then you being someone that's good at breaking into things, you're better, for example, at preventing them from being attacked. So as you can see, the paths are very different for the cloud architect and the cloud engineer, cloud security architect and cloud security engineer, but that's your path. Okay, the next question is from, whoops. The next question, let me bring it to my front screen so I can actually see it, is from Philip Alud. Thanks for this brilliant webinar. How can you relate your banking? Okay, so Philip, if you're actually on Zoom, you can come off mute. If you happen to be in YouTube, then it looks like you're coming from YouTube. Then let me try and answer this to the best of my abilities. What did you do in banking, Philip? If I know what you do in banking, it will be a lot easier. But let's look at banking from a technology perspective, Philip. Let's say you wanted to be a cloud architect and you wanted to work in banking. And if you come from the banking industry and you're a cloud architect that focuses on the financial industry, you're going to be an industry expert, which is going to give you a lot more career potential and a much, much, much higher salary. So let's pretend that you're going to do that. But the first thing that I would do is I become an expert on the technology needs in banking. Here's what banking really cares about from a technology perspective. The systems have to work all the time. The systems have to be faster than the competition so they can trade and do things faster than the competition. Lowest latency possible. Any amount of money necessary to achieve profit. So you know that about banking. So things have to work. They have to be secure. And they have to make sure they perfectly work all the time. Okay, and see Philip, I see that you're working in credit analysis, but you are a business manager. Okay, so let's look at this. Now, I want you, because you worked in banking, to keep remembering you've got industry expertise. And if you've got things related to credit analysis, that is related to risk, which gives you some areas in the specialty of risk. And if you were focused on designing systems for banks, for example, everything is about managed risk. So leverage your banking experience, focus on the banking industry, focus on that risk thing that you've done. That's already good. Now you also said you're a manager. Okay. When you're a manager, you're generally leading people. You're improving the relationships with people. You're bringing in the energy up the room. So if you're managing parts of the business, you understand business acumen. You're going to understand ROI modeling, for example. So again, that's going to be really helpful. But you're also going to have those leadership things. As an architect, you're going to need to be a leader. You're going to need to be able to communicate well. So again, big thing that's winning in your favor. So Philip, I love two things that I've seen. You've got industry-specific network. You've got lots of work with risk, and you've got lots of work with things. So who's good with risk? Security people. So imagine this. Imagine, for example, you were to get a CEH or a CISSP, a big deep security certification, and you've got this great banking knowledge, and you took like a certified solution architect professional, and you had a little bit of training teaching you how to go from that experience you have, which is such great experience, added a little more. Now you've got a portfolio. Now you focus on those things, Philip, and I think that's where you're going to be good, because now you're an expert on an industry vertical, banking, because you've worked in it for a while. And you can, if you're focusing on risk and security, you can relate that risk to the security. You focus on the good cloud architecture work. The banks are transforming, so lots of things to the cloud, but not everything, but a lot of things. Marry those together, Philip, and I think you've got a portfolio that's going to shine. The next part of the question you actually asked me before, what's the difference between a cloud architect and a solution architect? Lots of people ask that question, and it's a great question, so let's answer it, Philip. A cloud architect, or a person like me, is a person that designs end-to-end solutions on the cloud. Now, I might use an Nutanix cloud in an organization's data center. I might use AWS for infrastructure. I might be using GCP, the GCP cloud, for machine learning, artificial intelligence. I'm a cloud architect. I design all the pieces and parts and how they fit together on any cloud, data center cloud, any kind of cloud computing environment. Now, if I was a solutions architect, I would design end-to-end systems on the Azure cloud, or end-to-end systems on the AWS cloud, or end-to-end systems on the GCP cloud. Solutions architect just works for one company. Cloud architect focuses on the bigger picture as a whole. Much more career opportunities as a cloud architect, because a cloud architect can always work as a solution architect, but a solution architect typically needs much more training to be a cloud architect. That's why we train cloud architects, and we also provide solution architect training too, so our employees can take anything when our students can take anything when they graduate. For the really emotionally intelligent students that are really strong in tech, the cloud architect roles are relatively easy. In fact, I had 2 people that both took senior cloud architect roles with IBM in the last 2 months. Now, having said that, sometimes people that are a little weaker on the business acumen, sometimes their first job has to be a solution architect. So we make sure people are prepared. But a solution architect is one cloud. Cloud architect is many clouds. So I hope I answered your question there, Philip. Patrick, thank you so much. Patrick, I appreciate when your thoughts on an insightful and inspiring webinar. You have 4 years of information experience and aspire to be a cloud security architect. You appreciate my guidance. Absolutely, Patrick. You have 4 years of information security experience already. Okay, that's wonderful, Patrick. You're already are you a security engineer or architect, Patrick? And what kind of security certifications do you have? And what is your knowledge, Patrick, if you're still here? If not, I'll answer it, of the network and the data center. That would give me the best ability to help you most if I knew those 3 things. Having said that, if you're not on the call, I'm still going to answer it in case you watch the replay, because a lot of people do. And so let's answer it that way. Oh, Souls, I see you on the call. Welcome. So, for example, you've got all the security experience. Let's pretend you have a desire to do things. The first thing you would do if you desire to be a cloud architect is you've got to learn the cloud, and learn the network and learn the data center. After you know the network and the data center and all the things that exist in the network and the data center, then you can start thinking about learning the cloud, because the servers in the network and the data center are just servers in the cloud. The storage in the network and data center is the same storage in the cloud. You've got to know how all these things work. So now when you start thinking about cloud security, you got to have minimum level knowledge of a cloud architect. Not just, so you've got to have that cloud architect knowledge first. And then after that, then it's your focus. So I'm trying to see if I can see any more of what you've got going on there. So get that cloud architecture knowledge, either, for example, training with a training program like ours, or follow those paths of everything we talked about, or you basically get your networking things from Cisco and your security things from these companies. Get all those things. And then let's elevate your level of security. I don't know what kind of security work you're actually doing, for example. For example, you could be a security engineer that's just configuring the firewall, or you could be someone that's helping to craft the security policy. So I need you to elevate it up to the architect level. The architect's going to be the security policy person. That's where these CISSP things look kind of good, because I know when I did my CISSP, it was this high-level end-to-end kind of thing. There were lawyers that were in the course with me that were doing this as part of their risk management for an organization security. There's lots of people that aren't just tech people. So that's kind of something that builds that. So the next thing is to make sure that you've got exceptional communication skills, presentation skills, business acumen, and emotional intelligence. You get those kind of things, that's really your path to success. You could either train with us or on your own, but in any case, we would use that a recipe to get you to the same locations, because that's really what it takes to be great. Okay, let me read the next one. The next question is from Jesse. Oh, hi, Jesse. You love these sessions. They're very encouraging, even on your 10-minute break. Jesse, I always love everything you have to say. What a fine young man you are. And I got to say, what a cloud architect you're going to become, because I've seen some of the things that you're doing at your age, and it's amazing to me. So thanks so much, Jesse. Kevin Reyes, what are IT subjects to learn AWS as a beginner? Okay, great question. It's really impossible to learn things if you don't know what they are, Kevin Reyes. I will tell you that I never intended on starting this company at all. I was retired, doing consulting. Life was really good and fun. What ultimately happened is this. I was approached by my friend and said, hey, you know, some of those kids you take in, would you work with my kid and make sure he's great? And I said, sure. And I told him, I said, look, I'm kind of busy with my retirement. And I had said to my friends that I said, I'll train your son for 2 to 4 hours every Friday, but I'm kind of busy. So I'm going to buy him the 3 best-selling courses on AWS, on college computing training. So I bought him the top 3 best-selling courses. And after 2 days, they could call me and said, I'm really looking forward to this time on Friday so you can explain it to me. He said, I just want you to know this ahead of time. He said, I've set up an S3 bucket and I've configured an EC2 instance, but I don't know what they are. As I'm saying, the reason I'm saying this for you, Kevin, is I want you to know the right way to do this. And I said, Nathan, what do you mean you don't know what they are? He's like, I don't know. I set up an EC2 instance, an S3 bucket, but what's the point? What's it used for? And I said, I bought you the best 3 training programs, the most top-selling ones. And he said, watch them yourself. So I got kind of frustrated, and Nathan, like, Nathan, you know, I know you're being lazy. I watched the videos, and I was horrified. I mean, truly horrified. The thing was, here's the name of the service. Here's how to configure it. Name of the service, how to configure it. Name of the service and how to configure it. But if you don't know what it is, what's the whole point? There was no concept of what the tech even was. It was just naming this, naming this, naming this. And I was like, okay, oh my God. So that's why I came out of retirement. The first thing that I did is he and I wrote a book on passing the Certified Solution Architect Professional. We stripped 10 pages out of it and gave it away for free and called it a book for the Certified Solution Architect Associate. We created a program for the Certified Solution Architect Associate, and we give it away for free on our YouTube channel. So Kevin Reyes, on our YouTube channel, we have completely free book for the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. We have a completely free course for the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, and the link is in the description below this video. And for the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, it's free, and the AWS Advanced Networking, it's free. Now, that will help you on the AWS side, but you still need to learn the network and the data center. So if you're one of our students, we would teach you. But if not, go to Cisco and learn networking. Go to Red Hat and learn Linux. Go to IBM and learn about servers and storage. Go to Dell EMC and learn about servers and storage. Go to Checkpoint, Palo Alto, Juniper, Fortinet, and Cisco and learn about security. Go to F5 and learn about load balancers. Go to F5 and learn about DNS. Go to VMware and learn about virtualization. Learn the tech that makes the tech work. And you can do the rest of all those training materials I've given you 100% completely for free. They're in our channel, and we do an incredible amount of free live training on YouTube. And we have so much more free and live training coming from the cloud architect community, the solution architect community, the network architect community, the cloud network architect community, and the leadership community and tech coming out really, really soon. So they're excited things that we're partially announcing, but you'll see real soon, like next week, some new and amazing things from us to help you in your journey. Kevin Reyes, I hope I answered your question. S-Cloud is next. You're working as a help desk support, you're Network Plus, Security Plus, and SAA certified. Your goal isn't to work with cloud security. Is it even possible since you don't have much IT experience? S-Cloud, absolutely. The first tech job I got in my life with zero experience was a senior network engineer. And let me tell you, there's a lot more that goes into network engineering than cloud architecture. So yes, absolutely. Work with people like you all the time and some with that kind of background. If they're willing to work on the emotional intelligence, business acumen, communication skills, willing to lock themselves in a room and really study, it's very easy to take someone like you with your background and get that AWS Solution Architect Associate upgraded to a Solution Architect Professional, upgrade that Net Plus to a CCNP, then teach you the job of an architect, and within 6 months or less, you've got a great cloud architect job, assuming you do the work. So yes, but it's not just the tech piece, it's the business communication piece, emotional intelligence piece, presentation skills piece. That stuff matters, interview skills piece, negotiation piece, that matters at least as much. So if you train with us, great, you'll get it. If you're training on your own, make sure you get those modules, because that's the other half. That's the missing piece, which basically keeps people that's all the right tech skills from being hired. So S-Cloud, I hope I answered your question. Next question from Dirk. Would you advise to get certification in just one cloud, or go directly for certifications in multiple clouds? So Dirk, here's my advice. Become great at the cloud. So I want you to think about things architecturally speaking. Let's pretend you're a building architect for a minute. When you're a building architect, you determine how tall the building is going to be, the density of the ground below it, for example, the winds that are going to be forced, the strength of the building. These are the things that matters. And then we'll get to these new questions on YouTube in a moment. So it's the strength of the building. Now, because of this, if you're dealing with architecture work, true architecture work, the building architect is going to say, I need steel that meets this strength. Now, the construction crew that puts it together can buy that steel from any store they want. Doesn't matter. So when you learn tech the way we teach it, and Dirk, this is really important, when the way we teach the tech is as follows. If you know what the tech actually is, so what are you dealing with? We're dealing with virtual machines, and it doesn't matter whether a virtual machine is called an EC2 instance, an Azure virtual machine, or a compute engine. We're just going to the store to buy a virtual machine. If a construction crew needs a brick, it doesn't matter whether they go to Home Depot, Lowe's, or another brick store. It's just a brick. And to we cloud architects, we learn the tech that we're moving. So for example, let's say we've got a 3-tier web app with big servers. We know we're going to have network load balancers in front of the web apps, in front of the web servers. We know we're going to have another load balancer before the app servers, and we know we're going to have a database behind it and maybe some read replicas and caching and queuing, that kind of thing. That's what we know. It's always going to be that way. So we then need to think, what is the design? Now, granted, I say get one certification in one cloud and get another certification in an industry that makes you an expert. Because the cloud certifications, there's so many Udemy courses out there that teach the class, get you certified, and you can still know nothing. The cloud certifications don't mean as much as the industry ones, but you need one. So I'd say get the Certified Solution Architect Professional as your primary. Then get a big certification, maybe like a CCNP or a Certified Ethical Hacker or a CISSP in a specialty. Marry those two together, but be great at it. But if you're a really great architect, you can do the following. Let's take that 3-tier web application. Okay, I need a network load balancer. Okay, I can go to the store. And I know, okay, it's called an elastic load balancer with AWS. Oh wait, it's called an Azure load balancer. It's irrelevant. You're just going to the store. Then let's say you need a web server with 128 cores and 4 terabytes of DRAM. Guess what? You go to the store and you go to the chart at the store. Let's say to go to Azure's computing store chart and you go to AWS's computing store chart. Then you say, okay, I need a server with 128 cores and 4 terabytes of DRAM. With AWS, it's an X1E.32 XLG. I found it at the store. Or what's it going to be with Azure? 120 cores, 4 terabytes of DRAM. I believe in my head it's an M128S from the last time I checked. So just pick the modules from the stores. So you really only need to know the cloud. And if you know the cloud, you can transition to Oracle, Nutanix, OpenStack Ansible, Google, Cisco, Dell, Palo Alto, and a second standard. So I say learn the cloud and not worry so much about getting multiple cloud vendors. Get great at the cloud. Dirks, that's my advice. That's what I would strongly recommend. Okay, Jason, for the lab, they're 100% remote. You set up a VPN access to our servers, and then you can access our VMware servers to do anything that you actually need from there. Okay, so let's hope we answered the 2 questions before that. Mesafin. Microsoft Azure is the second in the cloud market, and I think it actually is going to increase its market share too. Mesafin. What are my thoughts on Azure? I think Azure is great. Love Azure. But right now, I would say make sure you have extreme competencies in one thing prior to worrying about the other. I'd say be a great cloud architect first, a great cloud architect, and then become an expert in one industry part of the cloud, like security or networking or something that you love, big data, who cares, doesn't matter. And then after that, if you want to do something in another cloud vendor, great, sure. But make sure you're really great at one thing prior to going to something else. That would be my advice, Mesafin. Isaac, thank you so much. What I've done when we created the interview questions is I've been asking hiring managers for years. I've also interviewed over 5,000 people in my career, and I do them with lots of other hiring managers. So I like to know exactly what hiring managers are going to do so I can promote my students. So thank you for confirming, because we work hard to make sure everything that we're doing is really in line with other people. And questions from Lenny Burnett. The videos teaching soft skills and interviewing, are they? They're from our team. We created them based upon our experience, and I have about $250,000 of training in that specific region that either I paid for, my company paid for, in the leadership world and the business acumen world. Super important to me. And I got to tell you, when I received that training, my career took off like a rocket ship, and it's a huge part of what we do here, focusing on those things. But there are internally developed. We use the work of industry leaders. For example, we look at work from the Goldman and Boyatis and the emotional intelligence side, but I also integrate things from cognitive behavioral therapy. We also integrate other things from psychology and sociology, as well as some things that are coming from like Asian things, for example, like yoga and meditation techniques. If it's used with Navy SEALs, if it's used with warriors, if it's used by Olympians and CEOs, and we're familiar with it and we test it and we have got some research, we'll use it. So we've got our own system that's based upon a lot of money, time, and effort into research. But great question there. Okay, so now I believe there's some questions on YouTube for me. So the first question, what are the prerequisites to our course? I don't have them. Here's my prerequisite. I need someone that's willing to work hard, someone that wants to be a cloud architect bad, someone that's going to do the work that we give them with energy, enthusiasm, and passion and love and attention to detail. We know how to get people to their goals. That's easy. The thing is, we can tell people how to get to their goals. We can show them, we can lead them, but the person's got to want to do it. So that's my only prerequisite. I have no other prerequisites for the following reasons. I've interviewed people that are 10x AWS certified, and I got to start them from scratch. In fact, when people say I'm already certified as an AWS certified solutions architect professional, isn't that enough? I interview them and I ask them 3 questions. I have yet, of the 1,000 people that I've interviewed, to have anybody successfully pass those 3 questions. Now, a month into my program, those people can do amazing things and are already designing big architectures. But I start everyone at ground zero. Here's the reason. The stronger your foundation, the stronger your fundamentals, the better you'll be with everything. Now, many of you may think that the cloud is new. Many of you think maybe, oh my God, this is this new innovation. I got to tell you, I've been working on the cloud for 2.5 decades. The cloud's not new. And everything that we're doing now, every new innovation on the cloud, were things that we've done for the last 30 years. Just 2 days ago, Amazon announced what's called east-west routing. We're routing between subnets in their virtual data center. And this is really great, and we're very excited for it because it's great news. It now means you can do better routing on Amazon, and it's almost now like the routing on Amazon is as good as the data center. This is unbelievably great news. But guess what? That east-west routing we've been able to do for decades now in the previous data centers. So when your fundamentals are good, when you know about non-transitive routing and BGP, you understand the full mesh long before you get to the cloud. When you understand what route reflectors are from 30 years ago, you understand what Cloud Hub and Direct Connect is with AWS or any of the other providers that use the same thing. So our prerequisites are that you come to us with an open attitude, open, energetic, enthusiasm, passion. We're going to build those fundamentals on you so strong that we can ramp up with such speed no matter where you're coming from. And if you've never worked in tech before, you stay in my program for 8 months and then you get hired. And if you've worked in tech before, it's about 4 months. We don't care. We don't charge more. All we care is you guys get hired. So that's kind of the way we do things. So that's why we don't have prerequisites. I hope I answered your question. If you've got subsequent questions to that, I would love to answer it. But that's why we do that. Almina, we do provide a 20% discount to our program for people when they join. But having some with an associate certification, realistically speaking, we still have to start you from the beginning anyway. It doesn't mean that you don't know something, but we've got to build your fundamentals to be really, really strong. Most people, for example, that have the Certified Solution Architect Associate training are relatively good with the knowledge of the name of an AWS service and how to configure it. But there's really no design skills in there because it's not included in the program. And let's face it, it's not even included with the Certified Solution Architect Professional training. Again, that's more towards cloud engineers and architects. So to turn someone into a cloud architect, we still have to start at ground zero. It's not that we don't value the effort that you've done. I'm sure that effort will make it much easier for to learn super new things that are part of the end-to-end architecture solution and be highly useful. But we need to build the framework of an architect long before we can even worry about the AWS piece. It's how to design the systems and actually what the systems are. So I hope I answered your question. But it's all about us making sure you're great by the time you're done. FM. You worked as a support engineer for Palo Alto Networks, great company, and now you're in a customer success engineer role. Excellent. Do you need to get another position such as network engineer? Absolutely not. So, before becoming a cloud architect, not at all. Okay, so here's some really good news. Support, especially when you're dealing with Palo Alto devices, which are extremely good devices, and I highly respect them. You know, security breaks everything. So when you're troubleshooting security, wow, you've got to have a good background. Now, the customer success engineer can turn into a customer success manager and a customer success executive. In fact, I guess it was about 2 years ago, one of the larger cloud providers wanted to make me a director level cloud architect under the term customer success executive or customer success director, I think that's what they were calling it. But what it really is, it's the next evolution of that. So customer success is about solving customer problems, removing roadblocks, delivering happiness to the customer, and making sure the customer's business needs are met. So you're already in an architecture training role. This is an exceptionally good place to be. So I would do the following. I would learn a little bit more about security architecture if I was you, because you're already working for Palo Alto. So learn about that. Learn more about the network. You're probably very familiar with NAT as a security engineer, but learn more about the routing, specifically BGP. But learn about tuning paths and manipulating traffic in BGP. Learn about the other use cases in NAT, like with overlapping IP addresses. Learn about VLANs, learn about those kind of things from the network, and then get really good at server technologies, virtualization technologies. And of course, if you were training with us, we'd cover all these things. But if you're on your own, then make sure you get with servers and virtualization, get used to containers, get used to other kinds of security IDSs and IPSs outside of just the Palo Alto ones. But make sure you're used to VPN concentrators, which you probably already are. And make sure you're used to DNS, and make sure you're used to DHCP and used to all those other network protocols. And then get used to Active Directory and or any other kind of radius or other AAA or /IAM based services. And build your business acumen, your emotional intelligence, your leadership skills, your executive presence, and you'll have a great architecture career. You're in a great position, FM. I've got lots of good friends that actually work at Palo Alto. And they even have their own cloud. So you could even work on their cloud. Any more questions, FM? Oh, perfect. You got an answer. Mustafin, you got answered. Chris, are there other questions that I didn't know about? Okay. Mudassar training. Can I help you decide which cloud role you can pursue? Sure, happy to. In case it helps, check my LinkedIn profile. Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm in a position to be checking LinkedIn profiles while live streaming. Can you tell me a little bit about what you are and what you've done? Because I'd love to give you a good answer. Okay, so if you want to help me with that, I would love to be able to answer your question. Hold on one second. My associate sent something to me. Okay. Okay, so let me go back to that question and see if I can see it on my screen. Okay, so can I help you decide which to do? I think it's up to you. Where do you prefer to be? So, for example, do you like being in front of people? Do you like to manage people? Do you enjoy that? Or do you like the deep engineering side of the world where you're in front of a computer? For example, if you're like me and you prefer to be customer facing, the architect role is a better role. The architect role pays more, has much more upward mobility, and it's great for people that are outgoing, that enjoy sales, that enjoy consulting. It is perfect for that. Now, you have a great education that's there and lots of great background on the software side. But if you wanted to be an engineer, because you like engineering and you like doing that kind of work, that is totally great too. So for you, it's really a matter of, which would you prefer to do and then developing the right skill set. Architecture skill set, much more soft skills, much more how things work together, how to design. Engineer skill set, much more build, 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 build. So just because you have a big background in software engineering doesn't mean you can't do others. I get software engineers and turn them into great cloud architects. I get people that like engineering, and that's great too. Just do what you love, you'll be happy. But your background is exceptionally good for either one. Okay, the next question I see. Okay, the next question is, you worked in oil and gas as a geophysicist. You know what? I get a lot of people I work with them. The industry's been hit pretty hard. I actually saw so you have learned Azure and cloud and have a few certifications. That's a good start. Okay. So what is your suggestion for you? I actually don't know your level of technical competency or your actual experience to be able to guide you. So I have two options for you. You can type it in the chat box in Zoom, and my associate will put it on screen. Or you can pop over to YouTube, to Zoom, with a link that we'll give you, and you can actually ask your question, and I can ask you questions live. And if we can have a moment of dialogue too, I can give you really good advice. So Chris from my team will give you a link if that's your choice. Otherwise, please let me know a lot more about you. Like, what have you done? I understand that you've worked in oil and gas, but I don't know what you did there beyond the drilling. You says geophysicist, so I'm assuming more on the drilling side. But I don't know which certifications you actually have, and I also don't know what you know. So if I can figure that out, I can help guide you better, because it's not just certifications. I'm going to give you a minute to join Zoom if you desire. If not, you can type some more things in. And in the meantime, I'll answer the next question. So I worked as a NOC engineer and I quit job. Well, I can understand that. You're planning to switch your career to the cloud. That makes sense. Is this the right way to join the cloud? I'm assuming you mean the right way. What is your suggestion to become cloud support and then cloud networking? Well, here's the thing. I love support roles. And the reason I love support roles are it gives people a trial by fire. And what I mean by that is, in a support role, people are angry. Their stuff's not working. So when you get people that call you angry, this isn't working, and in support, you're like, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, I'm sorry this is going on. If you just give me the information, I'll do the best I can to get you up and running as fast as possible. And you take this angry person and you turn them into a calm person. That's development of emotional intelligence. And that is a really critical skill. So one of the things that I love about support people is they're good at that. A good support person is really good at that. Now, what I not like about, going to support? For some crazy reason, and it's not grounded in reality, people typically don't think that highly of people in support. This is not me. I think support people are great. When something doesn't work, the support people are going to fix it. We need them. They are the most critical part of the team in some cases. So I wouldn't go to support if I had to. I'd probably go straight to network engineer or cloud engineer if you could. See if you've got good networking skills and you basically understand routing, understand OSPF, understand BGP, potentially EIGRP, and intermediate systems to intermediate systems. If you work at a service provider space, those kind of sort of things, then I would say if you're good at that, just get a network engineering job and then go straight into the cloud architect world, or get a cloud network engineering job, or go straight into a program like ours and become a cloud network architect, and you'll have a great career. So I generally would probably get deep into the cloud. I would improve the capabilities of your networking, assuming they're not up to the CCNP level or above. I'd get them there, get a certified solution architect professional, build all those communication skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, presentation skills that we talk about, because they are the most important part of the job. Do those kind of things, and I think you can go straight into a cloud architect role or a cloud network architect role. But I actually think if you do those same things, you could take a network engineering role and at least avoid one step on your process. But I do love the support background, but understand the brand it has versus it's not the brand you want. But people like me know that dealing with problematic people and making them happy is a skill. So when you're on Invis, if they ask about support, say, yes, I am really great at taking unhappy people and making them happy. Okay, on Zoom, you have a Security Plus certification and a cloud practitioner preparing for the Certified Solution Architect Associate. What kind of job do I recommend that you look for? As you worked as a web master, content batter, no experience in cloud, you have beginner skills in programming with JS and Python. Well, Doreen, where you're at right now, actually, Doreen, if you're on Zoom, do you have the ability to come off mute? And I can ask you some questions?
Hi, Michael, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity.
And for the people on Zoom and the people that are on YouTube, you probably are not going to hear her. So we'll rephrase the question. Having said that, I want to make sure we do the best we can. So please proceed.
Okay, I'm just looking forward to your advice on where to focus my energy right now, because I have the Security Plus certification, the cloud practitioner, and I'm trying to prepare for the solution architect. And thank you for your course, by the way. It has been very helpful so far.
Wonderful. You're welcome.
And I worked previously as a webmaster with content management systems. So I'm really trying to switch the gear, but I have this problem with experience in the cloud. So I don't know if you can give me some tips on what kind of job should I look for? Because you try to see data center jobs, and you have the cloud engineers, you have the solution architect, and one doesn't know where to focus.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Any of them you can do, and none are going to be harder than the others. The key is, which training path you take. So I have to ask you what you like. So for example, do you like giving customer presentations and being in front of the customer and designing things and writing and presenting about it? Because that's what architects do.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
So I also like being on the background, somehow in middle with a very technical and non-technical, because I know I have the skills to explain non-technical things to very technical and technical to non-technical, so I can be in that middle.
Okay, so that's the architect role. It's the person that can translate between those deep, super capable engineers that are doing all the building and the executives, the people with the money. That's what architects do. And that's what I did for the last few decades. I would go meet with this client, And they'd say, hey, Mike, our goal is to grow revenue by 13% this year. We need to drop expenses by 4% this year. We think that if we can get our customers communicating with us more and they can tell us everything they love, that we can gain in that 13%, but we don't know how to do it. And then I would go and say, hey, wait, there's these collaboration technologies that can do this. There's these other things that can do this. And I'd say, I heard what you're saying. Let me take these things back to my team. And I'd go back to my team of all these really smart engineers. And I'd say, okay, engineers, I need to do this. Now, we got this stuff. Will this stuff work? And they'd say, no. They'd say that stuff and this stuff works. And then you come up with a solution that's based upon you. Me, I was the infrastructure person. So I'd ask the security people, does this work? I'd ask the other IM people, does this work? And part of the architect. So you're really a coordinator of everybody else. You're the leader that's putting the pieces together. So if that's you, it is a great job. It offers the highest pay. And the reason is you're close to the customer, which means you're generally a source of revenue. You're convincing the customer they need a product and you're showing them how and why. That's what makes you so highly paid as an architect. The engineers are the people that are actually doing the work, the people that make it all happen.
Okay.
But for some reason, society pays more to the person that sells the solution than the person that builds it. Why do they pay more to the realtor than the person that's building the house? I don't know. But the people closer to sales often get paid more. So bigger commissions. So architect, more opportunity. Engineering, you're going to have to focus on building stuff. You're going to have to learn to code in engineering. You won't be coding as an architect. As an engineer, you're going to know Python fairly well. You're going to need to know Node.js fairly well. As an engineer, you're going to need to know automation tools such as Terraform really well and CloudFormation really well. So these are kind of those things that engineers would do. Whereas architects, it's all about design. So pick whichever is going to make you happy. It's going to take you about the same time to get to either destination.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Okay. Who is the next question? Oh, you already put it up. Thank you. You have 4 years experience in information security, incident response, vulnerability management, IDS, and enterprise antivirus. Okay. How can I dress in to be a cloud security architect? Well, Patrick, your case is pretty easy. We've got to get you to become a cloud architect and match it with a security architect. So that means learning the network and learning the data center and all the technologies that make it possible. That means adding all the emotional intelligence training, the presentation skills training, the executive writing training, the learning what CEOs care about versus CIOs versus CEOs versus CTOs, learning how to translate between business requirements and technological solutions, learning how to translate what the engineers say into things that are relevant for the people that have the money and do those kind of things. And of course, knowledge of every system that makes it work. For example, you need to know firewalls, which you probably know, IDS, IPS systems, which you probably know how they work, VPN concentrators, you probably know. You're going to need to know routers and switches in depth, the routing protocols, thanks to things like BGP, but not just to connect to the internet or for the security reasons, all the other reasons. QoS, VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, 802.1q trunking, Q1Q trunking, Ethernet over MPLS, BGP, and then storage, servers, virtualization containers, and IAM. Those are the kind of things, as well as you need to learn security architecture. Now, you may already know that, or you could be a configurer. So if you're a security administrator, for example, and you're just doing the maintenance of these things, you might need to learn how to do the end-to-end design. You have to learn these frameworks, and theoretically, I look at some of these frameworks and I'm like, well, they're a little theoretical in nature, but they don't tell you what to do. But you still have to know them. And then after that, you've got to basically know how to write a security policy. And then after that, you pretty much need to know how you would design the end-to-end systems for security. Know the cloud, know security, and that's what you do, Patrick. And it will be not that hard for you, especially with your experience. It's excellent experience already. Madassar, well, it depends on engage. Let's Let me verify the engagement manager salaries to make sure that they're what I think they still are. It really is dependent upon whether you're out there. So, okay, wow, there is a massive difference between engagement managers and cloud architects in terms of salary. So, realistically speaking, for example, the average cloud architect earns about $155,000 a year. A beginner might earn around 120. A senior cloud architect, someone that's been in the field for 20 years, easily $300,000 plus, 350, easily if you've got good emotional skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence. When you're dealing with the engagement managers, you're typically dealing with the realm. I'm looking right now at the engagement salaries in Florida because that's where I live. Average is 76,000, which is 50% out of a cloud architect. The top earners are 119. I know for a fact a tremendous number of cloud architects earning about $400,000 a year. So it's basically a cross between a half and a third. So I hope I answered your question there, Amanda Hart Training. FM. How often are you expected to travel to customer locations as an architect? Well, it depends how good you are, and it depends on the normal part of the economy. So what do I mean by that? I've had years where I've traveled 300,000 miles a year as an architect. I've had other years where I traveled 25,000 miles a year. So in today's world, with Zoom doing as good as it can and other conferencing providers getting great as well, that Zoom, with the cost and the price and the functionality of it, so many meetings are being done on Zoom and Teams and all these other environments now that the travel is dramatically reduced. Plus, the changes from coronavirus really restricted travel, and people are now realizing they can do a lot with less travel. So, in today's world, you can be an architect and not travel so much. In my day, 300,000 miles a year was pretty normal. But you know what? I got to see a lot of places, got to appreciate where I lived, got to meet some wonderful people in every corner of the world, and love that as well. So, good and bad about travel, but I did enough travel for a long enough period of time. I'm happy to stay in a room with my triple monitor screen and my cat on my lap, and life is really good. It's much better. Hope I answered your question there. But you will be traveling to customer locations sometime because you got to interview the client and baseline systems. Okay, make sure there's no more questions on Zooms. Jason Trompter, do we have an available sample resume before or after? Well, I don't ask my students to publish their resumes, although lots of my students would be more than happy to. But we do a resume review and provide guidance for every single student that we have. Who else has a question for me? Mudassar Training, AWS Architect versus Google Architect, which one is better? Well, all I'll say is this. Google owns less than 10% market share. So if you train Google, you'll have 10% of the opportunities that you might have otherwise. Now, having said that, I love the Google Cloud. I actually prefer the Google Professional Cloud Architect cert to any other cert out there, and I possess one myself. And what I like about it is it's case study based, so there's some architecture involved in that certification, and I actually like that. So while I love the Google Professional Cloud Architect cert, if you're getting into this environment, don't pick the one with the lowest amount of job opportunities. When you're transitioning careers and you want to do something that's different, you want to have as much appeal as possible. So I'd say get AWS first. And that's probably enough, but really learn the cloud well. And if you want to do Google later, sure, go ahead. Who has any more questions for me? Azure is another great cloud there, Matt, but I would start with AWS first again. You know, when one of the things that we like to consider is the ultimate salary of the person, for example. And realistically speaking, the market has determined that AWS architects typically get paid more than Azure architects, so that's the other reason to use AWS. So we use AWS as a primary. Hope I answered your question there. Okay, the next question is coming from Zoom. And it's from Isaac. What is my opinion about working for the Big Four consulting firms? Well, I think they are great. In fact, one of my students just recently took a job as a cloud architect for one of those Big Four. And he is really, really, really happy. And I got to tell you, any time spent in a management consulting organization like an Accenture or a Bearing Point or any one of these companies, they train you so much. They work on your emotional intelligence, your executive presence, your business acumen constantly. They're teaching you how to dress, how to walk, let's expect to be heard, how to be more relevant to the CXOs. Those Big Four consulting firms will spend so much money training you to be great that they are wonderful places. So my students graduate and they go to one of these Big Four consulting firms. I am really happy. It's one of the best things I think somebody can do for their career. So I think it's great, Isaac. Who has the next question for me? Any more questions from either Zoom or YouTube? Chris can provide a link for our training on both platforms in case I can't, because I can't see whether it's there or not, and while we wait for any more questions. Trend X group. Okay. You want to deal with the migration, I'm assuming you mean to the cloud, and manage AD and thin clients. Is this an engineer or an architect? Well, do you want to design it or do you want to do it, Trend X? The architect is the person that designs the migration and all the things that are supposed to go. That's the architect. The engineer does the migration. So hope I answered your question there. Okay, Andrew, that's an interesting question. So Andor Imri wrote a question, and the question is, if you personally had to name one thing that I don't like about the cloud architect role, what would it be? You know, I've been an architect for so long, and I absolutely love it. What I will say about the cloud architect world right now that I don't love is I don't love the amount of people that are providing training that provides no value for the consumer, meaning the people are buying training they think they're buying architecture training and they're really buying engineering training. So that really upsets me about this current world. What also upsets me is the misconception going on about what is an engineer versus what is an architect. And that's why we developed our training programs, because we architects all know what architects do. But last night, my friend Sanjeev made a post, and he was looking at it because he is a DevOps engineer like you can't imagine, and I really respect him. And he basically said, "Oh my God, I found a cloud architect job. Guess what they wanted? Or an AWS architect. It said Kafka, and it was all DevOps things, and it had no architectures." And he's like, "What is this?" And of course, all the enterprise architects and all the architects like me that have been working as architects for decades were like, Sandeep, you're right. And then there are people like me that are concerned. I'm like, yeah, the worst part of this thing is all these people now that want to be architects are learning coding. They're learning Terraform. They're learning all these great things that are totally unrelated to architecture jobs. And then they want to apply to be an architect and they can't be hired. So The worst part of the cloud architect world for me right now and going on is what's going on is there's so many certification providers that want to sell certifications so badly. They're out there trying to tell people to become a sysops person, a DevOps person, learn these things that are totally unrelated to the job. And then the person's stuck and they can't get hired. So that's why we do so many of these free things on YouTube. We want to make that clear. So once that occurs, and we can fix that world so that everybody knows exactly how they can become an architect. I want to tell you, it is great. I've worked as an engineer. It is hard work. I loved it, but it's hard work. As an architect, you go in, you give a speech, you buy somebody lunch with a corporate credit card. You go in, you write a document, you go in the next day, you present it. It's pretty nice. You buy lunch, you might buy drinks, have a nice dinner with someone. You're building relationships. You're doing a little bit of that part. It's part of the thing. If you get to know people, you build relationships, develop a community. I love that. I love solving somebody's problem with technology. There's nothing that I don't like about it. Literally none. Now, in the old days of being an architect, in the early stages of designing the cloud, I didn't necessarily like traveling, 5-6 days a week. But other than that, I think it's the best job I've ever had. I left medicine for this. Literally, I'm not kidding. I love practicing internal medicine for architect work. And I love it. So I hope I answered your question there. Medusar training. Since you have done the AWS Certified Solution Architect, would I recommend the next cert from Azure or Google? Absolutely not. Okay, so I hate saying this. I'm going to make this very clear. Anything below the professional level to a hiring manager is not considered good enough. I'm going to say this one more time. Anything below professional level certification to a hiring manager doesn't mean a lot. So here are the people that can't get hired. The people that do the Certified Solution Architect Associate, the Azure level associate, the Google level associate, because they don't know enough to be hired. So to the employer, and these are hard exams, every last one of them, which is why it's so detrimental. If someone takes a first grade or a kindergarten lesson 3 times, they don't have a college education. They've repeated kindergarten 3 times. So when employers see an AWS associate, a Google associate, an Azure associate, here's what they see. Someone that went to kindergarten 3 times, and you're not getting hired. And if you do, you're not getting paid a lot. Now, by comparison, if you go straight from that Certified Solution Architect Associate to the professional one, and don't think about anything else, now you've got something that means like college graduate level. Now, granted, it's still only 10% of the knowledge in that Certified Solution Architect Professional, but that's where you're starting to build a little bit of depth. And for most employers, that's your introduction. So no, don't get like 1,000,001 cloud things. Get this professional one, associate, professional. Then get something from an industry, a professional one in security, a professional one in networking, a professional one in something. Be great. Show you have deep knowledge, not a little bit about a lot of things, and you'll get hired and then you'll land. So that's my advice to you. Do not get a bunch of associate certifications. Get a professional certification and 2 of them, and then you'll be in great shape. 1 from industry, 1 for the cloud. Chintan Nayak. It's really funny. I see 2 kinds of job descriptions for architects because I monitor them every day. Some of them are basically they list everything and call it an architect, and they're not architect jobs in any one place. They're just misuse of the title. And the other times, they actually say something. For example, I recently looked at a software company, and they had a job description for a cloud architect, and it read exactly what was printed in CIO magazine, word for word, but they changed like 1 or 2 words in like 2 of the sentences, so it didn't look like they cut and pasted the whole thing. And you know what? I viewed that as one of the most intelligent cloud architect job descriptions I've ever seen. Then I've seen some that are clearly cut and pasted from a network architect thing, and they add a couple of cloud things. So in today's world, what's going on is people are just cutting and pasting job descriptions. Nobody's even reading them. By the time you see a job description and you're done with it, you don't even know which job it is or from which career it is. So realistically speaking, that's the only thing I can say. When I interview hiring managers, they tell me what they want. They want systems designers. When I speak to the actual recruiters that are connected to them, they say they want these things. When I talk to people that are cloud architects, which you do every day, they're not configuring anything either. So, there's a problem with these job descriptions. But like I said, that's why we use recruiters to go to the hiring manager directly, and we intentionally skip the HR departments because we need to know that people are trained and being assessed for the actual jobs they do, not somebody else's job. So hope I answered your question there, Chintan. But because it is problematic and it frustrates those of us that know these roles every day. Any other questions for me? The next question, Mudassar, excellent. Yep, get it, go to the professional one. That should be our next step. That's what I would tell my students, family members, or anywhere between. I think you're going to do much better that way. Okay. So the next question is from Babita Sinha. Hey, Mike, the phone number I see on live YouTube is right? Yes, that is the phone number for, oh, wait, hold on. It is not the correct phone number. Our phone number is 973-896-4889. So Chris from my team will fix that phone number. Thank you so much. Nacha Max. Hi, Mike. Can you make a video from a cloud and Firma perspective to show the best tools to recreate stress to our infrastructure? For example, how to test auto scaling, that kind of thing. Nacho Max, that is a QA thing. And I know a tremendous number of QAs that do that. But architects don't do these kind of things. And I'm an architect and been an architect for decades. So since I am not a QA person and not an architect, and I'm an architecture person, I wouldn't be in a position to really teach you about how to use Ixias and other tools such as that. I'm a little familiar with them because I've asked many engineers to test solutions for me, but we architects don't actually test things. It's not really a part of our thing. So our channel is really about cloud architecture. So it's not something that I would be in a position to talk about testing tools, because we train cloud architects, and cloud architects design, they don't build, and they certainly don't test. So I hope I answered your question there. Who else has a question? Any other questions? Okay, well, if there's no other questions, if there's any people that are curious about our training from Zoom and you want to call us, you know how to do so. For example, anybody from YouTube that's got any questions on our training and you desire to call us, you can call our office. You know how to do so. My associate actually put up the proper phone number this time, so we've got that for you. So apologies for the incorrect number. We will leave it in the description of the video. We'll leave it there. Hey, by the way, we made the wrong number. If you need to reach us, we'll find you. So anyway, I don't see any more questions. So thank you all. It's been really wonderful to speak to you this morning. I will speak to you very, very soon. I hope you all have a wonderful and amazing day. I hope we gave you the information you need to start your careers. If you'd like to work with us, we would love to work with you. You have the link to our training as well as a 20% coupon code from my associate Chris. For those people that desire to call us, they actually need to know this. Okay, there's one more question. Farzin Rashad, I recommend never taking multiple associate level certifications and then take the professional one. Farzin, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Now, I know there are a bunch of course providers in the single content that said, hey, if you want to learn architecture, study how to build things, which is not architecture, how to maintain things, which is not architecture, and how to software develop things, which is not architecture. So I recommend not doing that. Farzine, the average cloud architect earns $600 per day, which means every day you are spent studying things that are not your skill is costing you money. So for an example, if it takes the average person 6 months to pass all the associate certifications in the careers that aren't related to their own, at $12,000 a month, which is an average cloud architect salary, and a good cloud architect can earn $24,000 a month, but an average salary of $600, someone spends 6 months of wasted time learning associate certifications in something that's not their career, they've lost $72,000 of income. But it's not just that, it's worse. See, what happens now when you have got multiple associate certifications in your resume and a hiring manager sees you, they're like, who is this guy? Are they DevOps? Are they SysOps? Are they an architect or are they an engineer? And when there's ambiguity in your resume, you're not getting hired. In the event you do, you're getting paid a lot less because you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, as opposed to someone that's good at something. So I recommend the simplest thing. Start with the Certified Solution Architect Associate. Go straight to the professional. Skip all those other irrelevant certifications because they're not going to be relevant to you if you want to be an architect. Now, if you'd want to be a DevOps engineer, then go be a DevOps engineer first. For example, learn to code, learn all the DevOps tools, and then do the DevOps certification if that's your career. But hiring managers want people that are focused on a job. Hiring managers want capable people. What happens when you spread the load and you spread your energy and you learn a little SysOps and a little DevOps and a little this, and you want to be an architect, you don't have the skill because you've spent all your effort. So 3 things happen. 1 is you waste a lot of time, which costs you a lot of money. 2 is your salary is lower because you look like a jack of all trades and confused as opposed to a focused architect. And 3, when you do this, you won't have enough depth in the job you want to actually be hired. So laser-like focus in your career. Study what you want, become the best you can be at that. Develop the right attitude, the right energy, the right enthusiasm, but be focused. Martial artists train to fight. Olympic sprinters train to sprint. Olympic sprinters don't train ice skating, they train to sprint. Don't do associate certs that are not in the career of your choice. Do the certs that are directly in your career. If you want to be a doctor, don't train to be an auto mechanic. If you want to be an architect, don't study SysOps. They're different careers. So get the professional certs and the skills that you want, and your career will be amazing, Farzan. And I'm so glad you saw the response. I just really, really want to help people. I take it from the perspective of the hiring manager because I speak to them every day, and a career coach. How do you get the best long-term success, the highest salary, and a career that's going to delight you? So that's all I want for everyone here, and that's why I've answered these questions this way. Jason Lopez. So I'm going to tell you this. Having 3 associate certifications is no more meaningful than having a single associate certification. So cloud support associate, that's going to be very tricky. And here's why it's going to be tricky. For support, you need to really know how stuff works in depth. So cloud support, knowledge of the network, knowledge of the data center, just like any of the other things, you got to learn the network and the data center. I would then say, take the Certified Solution Architect Professional, or whatever professional, whichever cloud you want. Having an associate level certification is almost always never enough to get hired in today's world. It used to be, but what happened is all these courses came out about the name of the service and how to configure it with no explanation of how they work or why they were used. And with that came a slew of cheap courses that didn't teach the job, and with them came another major problem. With that came a bunch of exam dumps and things that were teaching you the exams, how all these people have passed the associate and that don't know anything. I've interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people and couldn't hire them. That's why I created this program. In fact, because of all those challenges with the certifications, that's why we made our own completely free Certified Solution Architect Associate course and ebook. The link is below. Certified Solution Architect Professional course, link is below. It's all free. And AWS Advanced Networking course, all free. Watch those 3 things. That is going to give you so much more knowledge, and it's all free, Jason. It's all free. Watch that. Take the professional, buy a practice test for the professional. Learn some of those things by watching things on our channel, and you'll easily be able to get a cloud support associate role. Easily, and it won't take you that long. So watch some of our interview videos on our channel, And then, for example, after you've done that, do those 3 sets of trainings that we did, which are more architecture related, and we explain the technology. And for you, for that cloud support associate role, you'll have no problem getting it, and you can do it in months. So I hope, Jason, I answered your question. Thank you so much, Mesafin. I really like that frog. It's very happy. Medusar, you're welcome, and I'm always happy to talk and help. Trendex Group, you're welcome. Thank you for participating. Always happy to see you. FM, you're welcome, and thank you for participating. It's always wonderful to get to talk to people. Palo Alto is a great place, so hopefully you can try and stay there, especially now that they have a cloud. Okay, take care, everyone. Thank you so much.